There we go. Welcome everyone to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keene. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please follow us Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn. If you're watching here on YouTube, make sure to hit the like, give us a thumbs up, share the link. It helps new people to find me. Make sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to donate support to the channel, you can do so. The links are in the chat as well as in the description, PayPal, Cash App, Facebook Messenger Pay, or you can join us over on Patreon. Tonight, we have got one hell of a video. I have put together quite the presentation. So hopefully everything comes together really clean. We're going to be talking about what I believe is the biggest existential threat that humanity is facing, not just at this time and within this age, in my opinion, ever. And maybe the biggest threat humanity will ever face. And that is through this technocracy that, we have meticulously, inch by inch, been walked into this transhumanist agenda. And, in essence, they're trying to make cyborgs out of us and enslave us. We're going to talk about tonight, brain hacking, bioengineering. I mean, the whole thing, smart dust, AI, the whole transhumanist agenda. Hopefully, I'm coming through loud and clear. My sound is good and my video is good. If you guys are in the chat, let me know if my sound is good, my video is good, if we're coming through nice and clear. I was having some problems with the Wi-Fi. That's why I was late. I couldn't get connected or whatever, so I don't know what the fuck was going on, but we're going to go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to go ahead and screen share. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Rhoda Rose. I've got so many videos, so many articles, so many documents. We're going to do a really deep dive, and I want to kind of preface tonight's video with this little statement here. I want to ask people that are watching this, one, to be patient. Sometimes I know we love content and a lot of us consume content and we're used to those dopamine hits and shit, when we're surfing these platforms and we're watching our favorite creators. But I want to ask you tonight to be patient with tonight's presentation because it's not always about, the dopamine hits, you know, and sometimes it's about, something that's just bigger than us as individuals, so kind of, check your ego at the door. If you see any information that you're already familiar with and that you've already seen in the past, don't use that as an excuse to check out, you know. And if you're familiar with all of tonight's presentation, I want you to consider that it's just bigger than you and it's bigger than us. And, share this with somebody that may not be aware of this agenda and show them, not only are there, professionals and, it's documented all of these things that are taking place. There is a pile of fucking evidence showing that this is the direction that we're headed in, and remember, if we can't come together, and this is one of the saddest things, especially about the spiritual community, the truther community, that I see, anymore, it's this incredible division. It's like every man and every woman for themselves, when once upon a time, if you guys remember, especially in this community, uh, it was about coming together and operating as a unit and operating as a family. And it was about standing up for what is right, defending free speech, bucking the system and saying, fuck your censorship, and even though there may be consequences and repercussions for the things that are going to be shared and talked about and exposed in tonight's video, it's like, it's worth the risk. it's worth the time, it's worth the effort. Because if we save one life, if we make one person aware of this, then can you put a value on that? Can you put value on knowledge? Can you put value on, a human life? You can't. You can't. And I would love to bring back that energy, not only to this channel, but to the truther and the spiritual communities as a whole. And I would love to see people really start to come together. It's like, because right now, I know there's this incredible mentality of us versus them. And it does feel like that. We have these quote unquote elites, politicians, corporations, billionaires, and their ears are pinned back. They are at the fucking end game. They are at the end game, and these people are psychopaths. They are psychopaths. They are coming at all of us. They don't care if you're a creator, if you're somebody watching. They don't care if you're rich, you're poor, you're black, you're white. They don't give a fuck, right? It's all of us. There is a global agenda for depopulation. There is a global agenda to use technology, not only for this incredible, crazy fucking 1984 dystopian, Orwellian, um, just nightmarish society of mind control, hacking our biology. But it's really this culling and this thinning of the herd. And it's, one piece of theater after the other, whether it's world wars, alien invasions, Epstein files. We could go on and on and on. And I know a lot of you feel like, hey, this is all fucking distractions, and a lot of it is. But what are they trying to distract you from is the question. What are they trying to distract you from? And this isn't to live in fear. This isn't doom and gloom. This isn't fear porn or any of that. This is the fact is we fear what we do not understand. And this is to bring awareness and really increase knowledge and get a little bit more comprehension and wrap our heads a little bit more around the things that are taking place. So let's go ahead and screen share here. Let's jump in. 1 second. And I am grateful. I am fucking grateful. Excuse me 1 second. I am grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to have the ability to even be able to bring this, tonight, to be able to do this, to do what I love, and to, be able to connect with like minds. This is it's an amazing time to be alive. It truly is. It's an amazing time to be alive, and an exciting time. And I think a lot of people, especially those that are of different religious schools of thought and spiritual beliefs, those who have familiarized themselves with ancient text and, the Bible and different scriptures and prophecies. There are many prophetical, texts that basically state there is at the end of the age, you know, not only would knowledge increase, and we're seeing that, right? Um, in a multitude of ways, the population is becoming more and more aware. Consciousness is increasing collectively. We are becoming more in tune with ourselves and our own individual spirituality, as well as the collective and our connectedness, right? There's that type of increase in knowledge, but also we see the, you know, the powers that be, the hidden hand, if you will, starting to be exposed. And whether it's all orchestrated, and it's all theater for all of us, is neither here nor there. Look at USA, look at Epstein files, look at all of these different things. And I know it's kind of like, look over here while we do this over there. And they're just giving us a little taste of, something to satisfy and to pacify us, instead of unveiling all of it. but think about independent media and think about, individual people like you and me that do our own research, and we're just, we're revealing it all. We're revealing it all, and everything is kind of coming into the light, and everything that was done in the dark is coming to the light. And what used to be cool, right? Being a sellout, being, and I don't know if it was cool, but it was the only way to be successful was to, to essentially sell your soul and to work on the side of, the dark side, you know, and to work through manipulation and, you know, being covert and through the shadows and all of this. Well, as we have this polarity shift, it is losing its fucking power. And it's losing it fast, right? It's losing it fast. It no longer pays to go about things in that way. It's like we're now being forced, um, as a collective, as a whole, you know, um, we're now being forced to like face our collective shadows as well as our individual shadows, because there's no hiding, who we are. And as a species, we can no longer hide who we are. We're being faced with the fact that we're war hungry, we're selfish, we haven't protected our children, we haven't stood up for one another. We've kind of kept our head down and minded our own business while atrocities happen to our neighbors and, innocent people for so long. And like the shit doesn't fly anymore, especially after, C-19 and all of those events that took place. I think a lot of the shit, and that was a trial run. They were seeing where we were at, guys. And that was the beginning, right, of things really fucking unfolding for this agenda we're going to talk about tonight, right? With the whole graphene and, RFID chips and just the whole shebang, right? And how it has the ability, with nanoparticulates and this disruption of our natural biorhythms and the destruction of our pineal, which is our spiritual antenna, and so on and so forth, which to me is the destruction of the third temple. That is the abomination that causes desolation, right? The first temple, the second temple, the third temple. When you see the abomination that causes desolation in a place it ought not to be, flee to the hills of Judea, right? The hills and the occult and in esoterics represent a high state of consciousness, right? So it's like this call for all of us to reach higher, right? To get closer to God, to be more in tune with the Holy Spirit, to increase our own consciousness and increase the collective. And we are here, and there is an agenda. We see here America 2050 perspectives. This is the agenda for, and we're going to pull up some videos here. We're going to dive into this. You're going to see there's a fucking agenda, by, it's not just sustainable development for 2030 and depopulation and, the eugenics and all of that. That's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this. The people that do make it through, into this one world system, this one world order, this one world government, which is already here, right? It's already here. You should be able to tell that by the way that all of the governments of the world operated during the pandemic, right? How they all had the same protocols. They all used their Department of Defense, right, to disseminate all of the different, you know, meds, and how none of their government or none of big pharma or anything like that was liable for anything that happened or that, so they all ran the same fucking playbook. Klaus Schwab, all of these different globalists, they've written books and it's right out in the public, right? The Great Reset. We are walking through that now, and I've shown you Albert Pike, the modern day father of Freemasonry. And, don't even get me started on the secret societies and how these monolithic groups, of revolutionaries in essence, and not the good type of revolutionaries, right? The ones that cause chaotic bloodshed and revolutions within stable systems and communities and governments in order to topple them, to compromise them, and to take them over, right? Through psychological warfare and by, any means necessary, right? Because the ends justify the means. This is the hidden hand. Everyone that's in power has to be part of this little club, this fraternal order, this brotherhood, right? And they have many, many branches, many, many faces, but it's the same fucking doctrines, the same principles, right? And it's the same playbook, and it's all for the same end. They believe that it's going to bring us to this utopia, right? A utopia with a population that's thinned down. And we look at, the Georgia Guidestones before they were caught on fire, which is so fucking symbolic, right? Um, to reduce the population to under 500 million, right? Let's see if I can show you here. The Georgia Guidestones, right? This was the granite monument. Let's see if it's got the it says a granite monument that stood in Elbert County, Georgia, in the United States from 1980 to 2022, 19 feet, 3 inches, which is interesting. With numerology, you can look at that in a multitude of ways. 9 plus, you can look at it as 1 plus 9, 10 plus 3, 13, 13, very big, in the occult, or sometimes in different forms of numerology, you drop the 1 and it'd be 9 plus 3 is 12, or 3 nines, 999, representing the end, made from 6 granite slabs. And of course, it's 6 weighing a total of 237,746 pounds. The structure was sometimes referred to as American Stonehenge. The monument's creators believed that it was going to be an upcoming social, nuclear, or economic calamity, and they wanted the monument to serve as a guide for humanity in the world, which would exist after. Controversial from its time of construction, it ultimately became the subject of conspiracy theories, which is a weaponized term that came out of the Warren Commission after people started asking questions after the assassination of JFK, right? And which conspiracy theories, which allege that it was actually connected to Satanism, which is this black cube Saturn worship, through these these clubs, which we're going to look at tonight, as well as opposed to Christianity as its creator can claimed. And I don't know if we can actually see, does it have the inscriptions that were on it in here? Here it is. The inscription reads right here, and this tells you the entire fucking plan, right? Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. And it sounds beautiful, right? When you read it like this, except the part of maintain humanity under 500 million, right? But if there was calamities that were engineered, it makes a whole lot of sense, on why they would never want that population to grow. And it's like you and me and all of the rest of us, we're not invited to the after party, right? That's why these billionaires and multimillionaires are building bunkers. We've seen so many different things that kind of have telegraphed, and including, C-19 kind of showing this practice run, to see what they could get the population to do. And we rolled right over and capitulated. And it had dire effects, not only on the economy, but on people mentally, emotionally, physically, right? And it thinned out a lot of people during that time as well, you know. But they are preparing for something bigger. You got to think about Albert Pike, the modern day father of Freemasonry in the three world wars, which, the third world war and all of them happened right according to script, right? Being a social cataclysm between the nihilist and the atheist and Christianity and all of this, right? And we see that playing out right now. So we are in that final social cataclysm that is being perpetuated by the agents or agentors of the Illuminati, right? This hidden hand that is, doing this intentionally to sow dissent and division, to collapse the old world, burn the old world down, because it's problem, reaction, solution, right? And they have the solution waiting on us. And it says, without any deistic spirit, right? Christianity being disillusioned, will be indoctrinated into the true doctrine and pure doctrine of Lucifer, you know. And this is where we see things going. As the Piscean age is ending, which is, an age of religion and all of this. As religion dies, you see people being indoctrinated now into the whole new age movement, new thought movement, all of this, laws of attraction, all of this. And there's truth to all of these things, but they're essentially being indoctrinated into Luciferianism. So everything's going according to plan, right? In America 2050 prospectus. Let me see if I can pull up this video first. Sorry about this, guys. I gotta look around this camera. It is really driving me crazy too. 1 second. Oh Lord. I cannot see this. 1 second, guys. I apologize. There we go. Here we go. We're gonna start off with the video here. And hopefully you guys can hear me and see me.
Synchronizing minds. As I showed you with the monkeys, we will actually be able to start to synchronize our own thoughts when each of us is actually part of a greater mind. Think about this. We might be, it will not only be our minds, it will be AI. So we'll have very powerful AI out there working in conjunction with billions, potentially billions of minds wired into one giant network. But I not only could connect to
Hive
people,
mind.
I could connect to robots. Think about it. With a high-speed connection, I could virtually inhabit a robot. Now the scary part. If they hack your brain, it's not just your driver's license and social security number, it's your actual identity that could be stolen. Literally, a brain hacker could get into your brain and rewrite the information that's there. They could literally give you a new past. They could literally control you without you knowing it. So this technology is not all, fun and roses. This technology is coming, whether you like it or not. The genie is out of the bottle. The real question is, how will we use this technology? Will we use it responsibly? And not just individuals, but corporations and government.
And let me know if you guys can hear the videos and all that shit. I'm gonna try to AI is not good for your health. In the chat, let me know if you guys can hear the videos and if everything is clear and all of that before I continue. I don't want to be muted or you guys not be able to hear the videos. Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. I just don't want to fucking, go on without having. I have got to fix this fucking camera, guys. Apologize here. I got an idea, actually. I'll do it this way. There we go. This will work better. I don't know. I just reset my computer and it is just everything is all over the fucking place. So here we go. Now we're going to be looking at a couple of videos first to kind of like get the stage set here of what is taking place with, you know, hacking our brains and how they're using and implementing technology essentially to control our minds and how it can in essence steal our identities, right, create hive mind, all of this. But it's going to continue, and I'm going to show you documents, articles, all of this is all rolling out, this is all playing out now.
If you were in the audience last month, we talked about the whole idea of brain science and the cyborg, what that means, somewhere between.
And I just want to state too, the federal government, and I don't want to get too, I don't want to watch what I say on this. I don't want to get too in depth with this, but I just want to say that the federal government already uses different chemicals and different drugs, and they're able to legally use them. It's called MOIA is the name of the chemical. It's actually an antidepressant that causes hallucinations. And they use this against illegal aliens and illegal immigrants as well as domestic terrorists, right? And this chemical actually does something to the neurotransmitters of the brain. I'll pull it up in just a moment after we get through some of this video with this neuroscience here and show you. And it's legal, and the federal government has the ability to do this legally if they decide to target people. We're going to look at targeted individuals and everything. The amount, and you already know about microwaves, electromagnetic frequency, all of this shit, voice the skull. People think, if you think that this is all conspiracy, they went so fucking much further than what, the whole TI movement, what was commonplace and what people used to talk about then. They can actually read your thoughts in fucking real time now, real time through 5th generation, 6th generation technology, as well as pick up on our brain activity. And they advertise this like they do with everything else, as something good. I was watching a video earlier where this guy was talking about how he doesn't understand why everybody is on Elon Musk's ass and thinks he's controlled opposition and shit like that, because he's given the world free internet. He's done all of these things. And it's like, if you truly understand, it doesn't matter how likable a fucking person is. You have the POTUS right now who's done what appear to be very noble and good things for the population, right? Like banning censorship and bringing back free speech and just a lot of different things, But if you remember also, like Doge, this was something that was actually created under Obama, and they've just renamed it. Elon Musk is the guy who's created neural lace and is trying to put a fucking chip in your head. He's also the guy who's launched tens of and 20s of thousands of satellites, right? Creating Starlink, which these things look like literal fucking stars trailing across the sky at night to be able to beam down and connect with this stuff. You think about Trump as well in Operation Warp Speed and how he unrolled, and unveiled this giant agenda for the jabs, right? This started with him. This started with him, and people can say he was forced into it or not. He still did it. He capitulated, right? Um, and when you really start thinking about this, and Elon Musk isn't giving free internet to everybody. He's launching all of this to increase connectivity for, right, his overall agenda. You know, Twitter wasn't to free everybody and give them free speech, just to control, you know, the narrative, to control the public platforms when the time comes. You've seen Trump band together with all these billionaires, right? Google, head of Google, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Musk, all of these guys. And it's like, this is a super, and they've even gotten all of these different libertarians, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, all of it. It's like a super team, right, of the opposition. And I'm going to show you too that there are so many fucking documents, exercises of our federal government where they are specifically labeling the right, conservatives, libertarians, all of these people that would be under these umbrellas or collectives of these characters as domestic terrorists, right? And the whole targeting with targeted individuals, this works with not just the United States government. This is through the military and NATO. So it's multinational. And they're able to go after individuals. You think about the Patriot Act and the NSA and all of this, and the ability to spy on people, and Trump with the reauthorization of the Patriot Act in 2020. It's all been set up. We are at endgame. And as you're watching technology unveil and increase, and they're coming after the mainframe here, they're coming after the brains now, and the ability to not just pick up on your thoughts and your activity, to where they're now having to develop laws to protect our thoughts, right? Because they could use this shit. And think about what's his name, the head of Palantir, right? Peter Thiel, right? And his Minority Report type of shit, to where, predicting through AI, predicting future crimes and all of this. It's the dream team of billionaires that have come together, and they're ready to drop the hammer, right? And bring in this final phase. And that's why you see the books by Ingersoll Lockwood, 1900, and all of this, with this predictive programming of the last president.
Science fiction, science fact, precariously balancing between art and science. Well, let's start from that as a concept tonight. Let's begin a discussion tonight with the idea that neuroscience and neurotechnology are, in fact, game changers. They don't only have the potential to change the human condition, the human predicament of pain and suffering, but in many ways, perhaps, the human being and human society. That said, my argument is going to be quite simple. This really instantiates the need for this field called neuroethics. But if we look at neuroscience and neurotechnology, one of the things that we see is that these two fields have existed in many ways, the way much of science and technology have existed throughout human history, in a reciprocal heuristic. What we do is we utilize the tools of science in some ways to develop new theories. In this case, theories about the brain and what the brain does, which is to, in some way, give rise to this thing that we call consciousness in the mind. As we develop this theory of mind and brain, we then develop even more sophisticated tools.
You're watching it happen real time.
Simple techniques, but actually technologies. Technologies that we can use to assess the brain, access the brain, and perhaps control, manipulate, and target the brain, and in that way affect our cognitions, our emotions, our behaviors. But despite such progress that neuroscience has created over the past 50 years, and in fact, I must tell you that for those of you who are not neuroscientists, the discipline as we know it today, neuroscience, which is a fairly common term in our lexicon, has really only been in titular existence for about 30 odd years. To date myself somewhat, when I first went to school, when I went to questions or hard problems of neuroscience, and in many ways, this represents the almost ineffable characteristics that we have when we look at each other. We ask these questions.
And notice the terminology that he's using, the ineffable characteristics, right? And remember, if you look at, spiritual texts like, from the Nag Hammadi codices, right? God is described as the ineffable, inexpressible one. And he's talking about how this neuroscience without neuroethics has the ability, the direct ability to attack consciousness. And like I said, C19, and remember the Hebrew, the inverse, and everything is inverted, right? This mirrored reality, right? With reverse manifestation, all of this, that 91 Devakar means to possess by an evil spirit, right? And this graphene and its magnetic properties, and that the magnetic pole of your body is in fact your pineal gland, and it's also the spiritual antenna to connect to spirit or God or consciousness, or it's the beacon, right, to receive the signal from your higher self, from spirit or whatever, right? And then that magnetic pump through your body that pumps life, right, is your heart. And these were the things that were affected, right? Was fried out that spiritual antenna or stop that heart, which generates the largest electromagnetic field throughout your entire body, which is in essence your aura. And that was all the social distancing with the 6-foot radius and all of that, right? I know this is review for a lot of you guys, but I just want to state these things for people that haven't seen it, because this is all leading somewhere.
And as a result, what we've developed is a neurally based, a neurocentric philosophy, what neuroscientist and philosopher Pat Churchland refers to as neurophilosophy. And indeed, as we learned last time here at Dazer, it may very well be that we're moving into a neuroculture, where what we learn about the brain and mind defines very strongly what we do and what we are. But still, these hard questions remain. What is consciousness? What is the mind? Is there a self? Is there free will? And each one of these particular questions and the potential answers that they may generate or not generate, or be ungenerable based upon the tools and technologies that we have, really stir up, foster ethical, legal, and social questions, issues, problems, and of course, compel and may sustain our search for its potential resolutions. It's this sort of perpetual hard question of neuroscience that really gave birth, sustains, and nurtures this relatively new field called neuroethics.
Which, in essence, they always dress this up as them trying to figure out this solution to these unethical things. But in essence, what I believe they're doing is trying to figure out ways around the ethics and the morality of all of this to be able to utilize it against people. Yeah, so Road says smart meters. Yes, smart meters, all of this. We are in fucking unprecedented time. And I got one more short video, and we're going to start jumping into some of these articles here. And this is America 2050.
Just how much of the Great Reset has already dug its blood-soaked talons into modern civilization?
I've got a message for all illegals. If you don't want to be pushed back, if you don't want to be arrested, if you don't want to be shot, don't come to our borders. Do not come to the Polish border. Then you're safe. It's not us. It's not our police who came up to beat you up, to push you, or to arrest you. It's you who tried to break the law on our land.
The signs of sabotage are numerous and widespread as the vultures of Great Reset tyranny circle a sickened and angered populace that is on track for a mass starvation event in the very near future.
We're seeing this madness spread everywhere now. In Ireland, they're going to cull 200,000 cows over 3 years to meet the net zero climate goals. Germany, this is their German newspaper, the Daily Bild, 1 sausage per month, according to the government's new proposal with the German Nutritional Society. This is real. It's happening. It's not theoretical. We're not talking about down the road.
When you know that Agenda 2030 is simply a milestone year within that 100-year period. The milestone years are 2020, 2025, 2030, and 2050. they really fully expect to have this entire plan locked up and completed by 2050. If you go to America2050.org, which is a Ford Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation project, you'll get a look at what their idea is for in fact, what they want the United States to devolve into, which is to destroy the sense of having a unified union, and to, in fact, not have 50 states any longer, to have 11 mega regions. And in fact, what this plan does is it destroys the concept of the nation state, and it completely destroys it and devolves it into the city states or regions. And these are not, like individual cities, like say San Francisco or New York. These are regions that are governed by megacities, which are huge, enormous cities. It could be part of Washington State, part of Oregon, part of Idaho, and part of British Columbia. So it breaks the national borders, it breaks state borders, breaks, of course, county and city borders. And this is about destroying your ability to actually be able to control what it is that happens to you.
And think about this too. We've seen this, these mega regions and shit like this for quite a while. We see America 2050 prospectus. The America 2050 strategy will provide a framework for the public and private policies and investments needed to accommodate the nation's growth in the 21st century. This framework is urgently needed in a time of rapid technological, geopolitical, demographic, and environmental change. As never before, the nation's economic prospects are threatened by global competitors, all of whom who have created long-range strategies for growth and competitiveness. In the face of these challenges, America is flying blind. We have no national strategy to sustain our success in the face of this competition. America's third century urgently requires a new strategy to lay the foundation for the nation's future competitiveness, sustainability, and quality of life. The National Committee for America 2050, composed of business and civic leaders, policymakers, and regional planners, was formed in response to this challenge. America 2050 is developing a framework for America's future growth that identifies 10 or more emerging mega regions as the proper scale at which to make the investments that will maximize America's competitiveness and broaden opportunities for all members of our society. This framework will promote integrated investments in mobility, environment, and economic development that are needed to guide the nation's growth in the 21st century. It will provide capacity for growth by creating a world-class multimodal transportation system of new smart highways, high-speed rail, airports, and seaports. All of these linked to concentrated development at central hubs. It will preserve large environmental or green infrastructure systems, strengthen metropolitan regions and urban centers, and alleviate concentrated poverty by expanding economic opportunities to bypassed areas. The federal role in land use will be reformed to support collaborations across regional boundaries, promote mega-regional decision-making, utilize federal funding to ensure consistency with national objectives for growth. And in the process of achieving these outcomes, we are harnessing one of America's great strengths, the ability of private associations of business and civic leaders to work in partnership with government across economic sectors, political boundaries, and functional disciplines. We are creating bottom-up strategies to guide the actions of local and state governments and the business and civic sectors. At stake is a fundamental opportunity to organize and direct the trillions of dollars of investments that will be made over the next generation in infrastructure, housing and urban development, environmental protection, and new energy systems to harness these investments to improve the competitiveness and livability of every part of the country. America 2050 will result in 5 major outcomes: a national framework for prosperity, growth, and competitiveness, a world-class multimodal transportation system, protected environmental landscapes and coastal estuaries, economic and social opportunities for all members of societies, and global competitive mega regions. And this is showing you the mega region and non-mega region growth from 2000 to 2050, right? Each square equals 1 million people. Mega region is in blue. Non-mega region, you can see right here, right? This is the graph they're showing you to basically, you know, and if you think about what they're actually talking about, and you can see the gateway and the post-COVID economy, metro area issue survey, investing in infrastructure for healthy communities, banking infrastructure, right, and transportation, and charting a new course in housing. I want to think about 15-minute cities, right? These smart houses where we've seen this for a long time, where they've shown basically they're like storage containers, right? People stacked on, what is that fucking movie, guys? Ready Player One, right? Ready Player One. Let me see if I can find this here. And I am not sure if this is true, but I have heard this in the past that in order to work at Facebook at one point in time, employees had to read this book, Ready Player One. So let's show the trailer for Ready Player One. I want you to, and there's so many different things about Columbus, Ohio, and all this when it comes to sovereignty, becoming like the new capital. There's so many different things about predictive programming in this movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but watch. Everybody lives in this virtual fucking augmented reality. They live in these little storage containers. This is the future they want.
My name's Wade Watts. My dad picked that name because it sounded like a superhero's alter ego, like Peter Parker or Bruce Banner. But he died when I was a kid. My mom too. And I ended up here.
2045,
tiny
Columbus,
corner
Ohio.
of nowhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the Oasis. A whole virtual universe. Let me take you on a trip around the world and back. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do.
Like metaverse.
But they stay because of all the things they can be.
Can you feel this?
Yeah. It's the only place that feels like I mean anything. The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday.
Hello. If you're watching this, I'm dead. I created a hidden object, an Easter egg. The first person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the Oasis itself.
Who is this Parzival, and how the hell is he winning?
Find him.
This isn't just a game. I'm talking about actual life and death stuff.
The Oasis, the world's most.
And if you guys seen back there where they showed like the boxes, Think of like a fucking re-education camp or something like that, except these people get in debt to these corporations and they are enslaved
Actual life and death
into
stuff.
these containers here, with VR headsets they can never take off until they paid their debts. And basically they spend their entire lives there, right? And the ones that are outside of that live in, you've seen like the smart cities, the 15-minute cities, everybody in the storage containers. Life's so pathetic and so shitty that they live inside of the virtual reality because you heard him say that's the only place they can be something.
The oasis, the world's most important economic resource. And it's nothing less than a war for control of the future.
It's all owned by corporations.
Welcome to the rebellion, Wade.
Like many of you, I only came here to escape. But I found something much bigger than just myself. Are you willing to fight?
Help us save the oasis.
So there you have it, right? And like I said, I don't know if this is still true, but I know at one point I had read an article that said, Facebook employees had to actually fucking, read that, read that book, when they were hired or before they got hired. I don't know how true that is, but, um, and we see, this 2050 agenda. Think about it, guys. With the infrastructure and transportation, this is all about autonomous vehicles, right? Elon Musk is also, rolling this out. Everybody thinks he's so fucking benevolent, and Mr. Goodbar when it comes to helping everybody out. But, this is going to be, it's going to go from, in these smart cities and all of this. I believe at one point in time, and we see through the agendas of people like terrorists, crashing cars into crowds and shit like that. Not only do they have these agendas, to with that control, right? But there's agendas, for autonomous vehicles and to keep people from having the ability to have freedom of movement, right? And in essence, when you shift the economy to make it so expensive, nobody can afford to drive, right? That's where we see things going as well, right? But to have the restriction of the freedom of movement with housing, and you think about AI and universal basic income, because they're talking about how not only will AI basically take all of the jobs from human beings, but then they won't have the ability to make money. So we'll be totally dependent upon the system from universal basic income. And you can think about, a socialist, total socialist nation where your healthcare comes from, government. Cell phones come from, government, your ability to communicate, as well as, all transportation, being, county, city, all of that, right? And no autonomy and freedom of movement, and you think about also if they're providing housing and stipends and food, and you even seen like, in Germany or whatever it was, they were like, they're putting restrictions on food, and we have like Executive Order 13603. Anytime there is any type of emergency, and I want you to understand that, whether it's economic collapse, whether it's world war, whether it's alien invasion, whether it's another pandemic, whatever the fuck it is, they can enact these defense authorization acts, and through executive orders like 13603, which came under Obama, they have the ability to, take all of our food, all of our resources, and redistribute that, right? And in the name of an emergency, and you even heard this during C-19, right? This was mentioned. Trump was mentioning things about hoarding and shit as well. If you guys will remember, he was talking about corporations that wasn't playing ball at that time, but this could be very easily turned around on the public. And you're seeing things, in essence, not only are you seeing more of not only the local governments and shit like that, they have now been placed under the umbrella of these UN agendas in the federal government by, getting grants and money and all of that. And you see all these different executive orders that punish anyone that doesn't go along with, Trump's orders and federal orders and the mandates that are being placed, through these executive orders. If they receive any type of federal money, they lose that money, which they become dependent on that federal money if they're not playing ball, right? This is how you control local government, states, and things like that, right? And we've seen this, the arming of police forces and all of this, right? The localization, it's a UN agenda to, to go into local neighborhoods and cities and shit like that. And it's taken place over the last couple of decades. It's already there. That's why there's riot gear and SWAT teams and all this shit in every little city now, right? They got that through federal funding and shit like that. And in order to get that, they had to sign agreements, right? That they would do this. And now with these different executive orders, if they don't go along with what's being, put out there, the laws and shit like that, they lose that money and they collapse, right? So this is how they're controlling, everybody from the top down, and this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. We're walking headfirst into a fucking hornet's nest, and nobody even sees it. I'm not sure what you're saying. I think they gave them the book when they joined and asked them to read it. Yeah, Bailey, I think you're right. I don't remember exactly what it was with Facebook. I do know that somehow or whatever, I don't know if they still do that, but I know at one point in time, Facebook employees were asked to either read Ready Player One or they were required to read it. But Bailey said that she believes that he gave them the book for them to read. So that's probably more accurate. So honestly, and we're gonna look at so much shit, guys. Oh Lord, it's just getting deep. It's getting deep. I don't even know where to start. Honestly, I truly don't. Right, and these are visions of warfare. Here we go. Hold on, let me move over here. Hybrid threats, hybrid warfare. I've got so many different visions of future warfare, and we're not going to try to focus on a lot of this. We're not going to try to focus on some of the things that we've seen, but we're going to talk about this technocracy, right? This technocracy and how we have really walked ourselves right into this. So let's start over here first. Let me get into some of these articles here. Go here. Q&A. How DARPA hacked a science writer's brain and turned her into a sharpshooter. And I want you to think DARPA and the Department of Defense, the DoD, they are the main player in all of this. I know Elon Musk and the neural lace and all of this, right, is a giant component of this as well. But, you got to think about C-19 and the jabs and the Apogee delivery system, right, which was dual delivery system, and one of them was RFID, the other one was the solution, right? And it was all disseminated through the Department of Defense, through DARPA, and DARPA has, launched fucking 20, 30,000 satellites every so often, every so many months. So they are the main players. It says in 2007, science writer and editor Sally Adi attended a technology conference for DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, when she learned about a brain surface electrical stimulation method that allegedly cut in half the time it takes a person to go from novice to expert in sharpshooting, known as transcranial direct current stimulation. The brain stimulation technique was also presented as a way to potentially speed up language learning and mathematical aptitude. AD was struck by the idea of surface brain stimulation and for several years worked on convincing the Department of Defense agency to grant her permission to try it out for herself. In 2011, she flew from London to California to participate in an Army training simulation with a device on her head delivering electrical currents. AD went from a frustrated shooter to a skilled sniper. At the time, the idea of transcranial direct current stimulation had been circulating for about a decade, and scientists wanted to know whether the concerted firing of neurons by strengthening their connection through currents would affect a person's ability to learn. It turned out it did, at least for AD. But did it work for others, and how long would the effects last? To better understand the experience, AD set out to learn more about the electrical currents that run through all living organisms, the electric biome or electrome, and details the findings in her book, We Are Electric. And here is, and we're not going to probably go through all of this, but this is direct current stimulation, how the technique can be used and potentially misused. And this was the discussion. So here's the question. Can you talk about the experience of trying transcranial direct current stimulation at the DARPA facility? She said the research that I was interested in ostensibly improved focus to let people enter sort of a flow state, which amplifies learning ability. Just so you know, what I did was just a gonzo stunt. Basically, I was just, here's how it feels to try this. And so it happened to work really well for me. I was very frustrated and had made a lot of bad decisions in the run up to the simulation. After chasing the story for 4 years, I had done the dumbest thing imaginable. I booked myself on an 11-hour flight from London to California and not given myself even a day to recover, which was so stupid. Then I tried to save New Scientist magazine $100 for the hotel room, so I stayed with a friend who lived in the mountains and got altitude sickness. I hadn't slept, had jet lag, and was running on this wild amount of coffee when I showed up to the simulation. I thought, what am I doing? How can I report a story in this state? I was so freaked out, and they, the DARPA contractor, said, okay, we're going to put you into this simulation. Absolutely wired from the coffee, exhausted, and my circadian rhythm messed up. I did such a bad job. It's not like I've ever been good at first-person shooter games, but I was somehow even worse. They kept putting me through these training exercises, and I kept failing and being really overwhelmed. Everything was happening all at once. The fake people were running at me, and I didn't know what order to dispatch them in. It was incredibly frustrating. I had this entire script of self-recrimination running through my head the entire time. It was just vicious. Then I started just having really negative thoughts. I was thinking, this is all garbage. My whole job is garbage, just catastrophizing. Then the tech came in and switched the current on. And it was like somebody had put noise canceling headphones on me. I couldn't hear any of the negative thoughts anymore. I did the training again and I thought, this is completely fine. I know exactly what I'm doing. What's all the fuss? I was actually really enjoying it. After 3 minutes, the tech came in. Normally, the runs were taking about 20 minutes to get through, and I had dispatched all the bad guys and was awaiting the next wave and said, it's done. I was really surprised, actually, really annoyed, because I was thinking, so now I get it right for the first time and you stop it early? But I've only been here for a couple minutes, she said. No. And I looked at the clock and was shocked to find that 20 minutes had passed. The researcher in charge said it was a common response, that time starts to fly quite quickly. Many years later, I was talking to another researcher in this field who studies different phenotypes of depression and the effects of TDCS on them. She said that for people who have the little angry, waspy voices in their head, the particular placement of the electrode that I had for that part of the cortex found great success. She said that those people have this overactive, angry cortex, found great. Guy just sitting there. When you apply the electric field, it shuts him right up, and those people find that their depressive symptoms are alleviated. I was thinking of conceptualizing this little angry voice as the guy from the Inside Out Disney movie whose head blows up as a volcano. Those were the sort of angry little voices that I hear frequently as my background elevator music. I never thought of that as being related to being depressed, but I certainly sometimes have a pretty hard time with that. The experience of having that turned off was really interesting. It made me think about what my inner soundscape is daily. And afterwards, I really started investigating how to manage that a little bit more deliberately. And I want you to think about this, right? Through these electrical currents, right? Through her dome, right? Through her fucking head, she was able to change her thoughts, turn off thoughts, and alter her emotional state, alter her focus and everything, right? So now I want you to kind of conceptualize this and think about what the ability of this would be if, let's say, they don't need the helmet, right? They're able to beam some type of frequency directly to you, right? Through the ether, through, low frequency, electromagnetic frequency, right? Low frequency. Um, or even do this directly through your home, right? Using the amplification of the copper wires in your home or the smart meters. Or how about this? Just using the fucking headphones and shit like that you wear as you're taking a jog or, doing whatever it is you do, right? We've seen many different examples, or I have at least seen many different examples now of different interfaces that can operate directly through headphones. And if you think about too, right, this has been going on for quite a while. Think about the gateway experience, right? This was what, June 1983 in this gateway process, right? The hemispheric synchronization where they use sound, and what they used was stereo headphones to be able to, get both hemispheres of your brain operating together, right? Operating in the same process. And what it did was altered consciousness, right? It altered consciousness and allowed, and I'll just give you just a few highlights of this. We're not going to go into all of this. I have a video actually on the gateway experience. But just to show you, it says, in order to describe the technique for achieving altered states of consciousness involving brain hemisphere synchronization, the most effective way to begin is to briefly profile the basic mechanics which underlay operation of related methods such as hypnosis, transcendental meditation, and biofeedback. It is easiest to effectively describe what gateway is by beginning with a short description of those associated techniques that share some common aspects with gateway experience, but which are nevertheless different. Hypnosis, according to the theories of psychologist Ronald Stone and the biomedical engineering models of Itzhak Bentov, hypnosis is basically a technique which permits acquisition of direct access to the sensory motor cortex and pleasure centers and lower cerebral emotional portions and associated pleasure centers of the right side of the human brain following successful disengagement of the stimulus screening function of the left hemisphere of the brain. The left hemisphere of the brain is the self-cognitive, verbal, and linear reasoning component of the mind. It fulfills the function of screening incoming stimuli by categorizing, assessing, and assigning meaning prior to allowing passage to the right hemisphere of the mind. The right hemisphere, which functions as the non-critical, holistic, non-verbal, and pattern-oriented component of the brain, appears to accept what the left hemisphere passes to it without question. Think about that. Consequently, and this is how hypnosis works, right? They're circumventing the left side of the brain and essentially feeding orders to the right side, and it believes it's coming from the left. Now, if the left hemisphere can be distracted either through boredom or through reduction to a soporific or semi-sleep state, external stimuli to include, and think about, electrical impulses, sound, vibrations, frequencies, these would have the same abilities to disrupt the signals that are operating on the left side of the brain in order to engage that right side of the brain as well. And they don't have to just speak to you in order to do processes of hypnosis. Matter of fact, let's see if I can show you just a little clip. Right. Through trauma-based mind control, they can use, phone tones and shit like that, telephone tones and all kinds of shit in order to send you different signals. And let's see if I can find this here. Where is the other one I had? Jesus, it's driving me crazy. Gonna find this, guys. Hold on. I've got so much different shit, so it's gonna take me a second. Here it is. Trance mind control. And we're not going to watch this whole thing. We're just going to watch about a minute or two of this, just to make the point. And if you guys are in the chat, please hit that like, hit the thumbs up for me. It really does help with the algorithms and allows more people to see it. It gets suggested to more. And share the link on your social media. Make sure you're subscribed. You clicked all on the notifications. And if you like the work, consider supporting. All the links are in the description. Here we go.
That there was some place. At that time, there's a criminal faction of our government that was interested in targeting children such as myself for mind control. My victimization rose proportionately until I was used on a White House Pentagon level during the Reagan-Bush administration. I was used as a sex slave and also delivered messages to and from these government leaders.
While I was still really young and all that was happening, I do remember losing my free thought.
I couldn't even think anymore to hope that there was some place where people were kind.
I know the feeling. Truly.
Secret mind control programs began in America in September of 1946 when President Harry Truman quietly authorized Project Paperclip, a U.S. government program that allowed the Department of Defense to recruit and hire high-ranking Nazi German doctors, scientists, and spies into the United States. Over 1,600 Nazis and Italian fascists and their dependents were ushered in through South America with passports and assistance provided by the Vatican and the Red Cross. The purpose of this clandestine immigration was to infiltrate American governing jurisdictions, fortify secret societies, and establish new agencies with the ongoing agenda of the New World Order. Among the imports was Werner von Braun. Von Braun led the Army's rocket development team at Redstone Arsenal, resulting in the Redstone rocket, the first rocket developed to carry a nuclear warhead. Over the next 20 years, von Braun would go on to develop missiles, plan a manned spaceflight to Mars, and design a space station that would orbit the Earth.
Doesn't he sound so similar to Elon Musk as well? Like the rockets, right? And how SpaceX took over like the NASA contracts, and now Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars. It's just...
When NASA was established in 1958, Nazi Party member von Braun became the first director of the Marshall Space Flight Center.
And even Musk with his,
in Huntsville, Alabama. Another prominent Nazi recruit for the U.S. was German General Reinhard Gehlen. Upon his arrival in Washington, D.C. in 1945, Gehlen met extensively with President Truman, General William Donovan, Director of Office of Strategic Services, and Allen Dulles. The objective was to reorganize American intelligence operations and transform it into the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, in 1947, which Dulles would become the director of. Reinhard Gehlen was also instrumental in creating the National Security Council, from which the National Security Act of 1947 was derived. This particular piece of legislation was implemented to protect and conceal an unconscionable number of illegal government activities, including secret mind control programs. As the U.S. government became saturated with the infiltration of Nazi intelligence, one of the more sadistic Nazi doctors, Dr. Joseph Mengele, was invited to extend his barbaric human research that he was permitted to practice in Nazi Germany. His experiments resumed in the United States in 1951 under Project Bluebird, which morphed into Project Artichoke and MK Naomi. These were the origins of what would become Project MK Ultra in 1953. The aim of these projects was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that asks, "Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against such fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation?" The data harvested from these experiments generated more experiments with the ultimate goal of controlling the entire planet by creating the New World Order. Program after program went on secretly, unbeknownst to the American public, utilizing hundreds of thousands of silent victims, most of them children.
New details are coming out in a trove of declassified documents that the agency has kept secret for years.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret.
And, you think about targeted individuals and the whole concept of encompassing the families. Not only do they use electromagnetic frequency, directed energy, right, sound, all these different light, all these different forms, to manipulate and control, as well as the gang stalking, street theater, all of this, right? To traumatize and fracture a person. It encompasses relationships and family. They will isolate that individual by disrupting their relationship, destroy a marriage, estrange them from family, friends. It's just like a lion, attacking gazelles, right? It's like it gets it alone that way. It's weaker and defenseless, you know. And a lot of times these TIs end up, you know, if they don't end up unalive from the experiments themselves and from the targeting in itself, they will do it to themselves. I actually had a viewer, and some of you guys may remember this, years ago, about a year or two after, about 2 years or so after I started doing this, and he was a good guy, good guy. Back then, I was monetizing super chat all the time. He would watch every video, you know, a big part of, you know, the group. And he would email me, text me. He was just a cool dude. And he was experiencing very, very heavy, um, and I don't, he alleged that there was targeting going on. I don't want to say that there was, because I don't know firsthand. But he alleged he was going through some very traumatic things, and his wife and all kinds of stuff. So there was some very crazy things, you know, happening in his life, and he ended up, you know, deciding to check out himself. And I remember during that time is when, you know, I had a major bulk of my targeting begin, and it's been phased in and out over the years, honestly. You know, it would intensify for a period of time. Then it kind of die down. They would bring in different people, handlers, right? People to co-op me, people to pretend to fucking want to be in relationships with me, people to pretend to want to be my friends, all kinds of shit. And when you tell people these things, you know, um, they look at it as like, oh, well, you think you're so important. And it's like, no, this happens to anybody. Holistic doctors, lawyers that defend the wrong person, content creators, people that just, you know, post things that they don't want them to post, people that have extremely high frequency and consciousness that they feel are disrupting, you know, um, things. And so it can happen to anyone.
And they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment. And that was wrong. Under our watch, we will no longer hide the truth from our citizens.
Bullshit.
We will act as if all that we do will see the light of day.
Under the protection of the National Security Act, the CIA would continue cloaking these programs while funding them with secret arms deals, drug operations, and human trafficking. Projects such as Operation Spellbinder, which was designed to create sleeper assassins and Manchurian candidates who would be activated when hearing a key word or a phrase. Operation Often, which attempted to harness the power of occult forces, ran concurrently to hide the reality of another insidious program. Project Monarch.
We're just going to watch about one more minute of this before we switch. But, you know, in essence, what I'm trying to display here is to show you there's a rich history, right? That this has been taking place. You know, this mass hypnosis, this trauma-based mind control, this fragmenting and fracturing, and this attack of, you know, the mind, in essence, trying to alter and engineer the mind and create all these ill effects in order to control the population, those that they consider, you know, dissidents and, you know, things like that. And it's now through technology, it's made way more possible and accessible to do things. If it has the effects of disrupting, you know, brain waves and creating and thoughts and emotional states, and allowing people to have hyper focus and confidence. It can do the exact opposite to create depression, to create, hyperactivity, the inability to focus, so it has all of this. And like I said, through gateway, through sound and all of this, they can make the hemispheres of the brain be able to work together. And this is a form of hypnosis, right? To be able to disrupt the signals of the left side of the brain in order to present suggestion to the right side, because it just accepts it, right? And I want you to think about, cell phone towers, 5G, Doppler, all these different radio frequency, all of these different frequencies in the ethers and bands of frequency that are being used, and how they could be, altered or directed, right? Not just at one person in particular, but to the entire population and the masses, in order to produce mass effects, right?
My name is Kathy O'Brien, and I'm a survivor of MK Ultra mind control, specifically the CIA's Project Monarch aspect, which is a multi-generational study that they were doing, and use of multi-generational incest-based children. After 3 generations, behavior becomes autogenic. And that was part of the Hitler-Himmler research that was brought over in Project Paperclip by the Nazi and fascist scientists, who are combining that information with the CIA back when I was born.
And think about that. After a couple of generations, behavior becomes autogenic, meaning, like you have become indoctrinated into these particular behaviors, right? After a few generations, right? So, and think about here, this is NATO right here, cognitive warfare, a battle for the brain. With growing role of technology and information overload, individual cognitive abilities will no longer be sufficient to ensure an informed and timely decision making. This goes into DARPA, right? The decision making and focus, right? Leading to new concepts of cognitive warfare, which has become a recurring term in military terminology in recent years. Cognitive warfare causes an insidious challenge. It disrupts the ordinary understandings and reactions to events in a gradual and subtle way, but with significant harmful effects over time. Cognitive warfare has universal reach from the individual to states and multinational organizations. It feeds on the techniques of disinformation and propaganda aimed at psychologically exhausting the receptors of information. And I want you to, kind of consider, and what is it? Once the public what is that quote? Doesn't know. I'm trying to paraphrase. So, I think it's from the CIA. I'm not sure. The statement, often attributed to former CIA Director William Casely, essentially means that the CIA considers its covert operations to be successful when the public is so confused about the truth of a situation that they can't definitively tell what is real and what is not, effectively creating a fog of disinformation and obscuring the agency's actions. And let's see that quote. Disinformation as a tool highlights the potential use of disinformation campaigns by intelligence agencies to manipulate public perception and achieve their objectives. Public confusion as a goal by creating uncertainty and doubt. The CIA aims to make it difficult for the public to hold them accountable for their actions. And controversial ethics. This strategy rates significant ethical raises significant ethical concerns regarding the manipulation of information and the potential for undermining democracy. And it doesn't have the quote here. Here it is. We'll know our disinformation program is complete. Let's see if we can pull it up here. Oh, fuck. Here we go. I probably got it right here. Here we go. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the public believes is false. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the public believes is false. Here you go, right? This is William Casey, the head of the CIA, right? Think about that. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the U.S. public believes is false. And I want you to think about things now, right? Think about things now. You have literal fact checkers and everything. Why? Because all of the different narratives and disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda that has been placed out there intentionally. And then I want you to kind of consider the different algorithms that reinforce these beliefs to us as well, creating this echo chamber of our own ideologies, right? And what it does is create incredibly divisive atmosphere, but it creates an incredibly isolated atmosphere as well, to where, you know, if you're liberal minded, right, you are completely bombarded with liberal ideologies and ideas, and it becomes this whole anti and pro narrative, right? In these collectives of anti and pro, you can't be, you know, anywhere moderate or in the middle or in between. You're either one extreme or the other. It's extreme polarities, right, that have been created, right? And this is that dualistic system, right? The left and the right, black and white, gay and straight, right? So on and so forth. And this is, you know, the divide and conquer tactic, and it's used through disinformation in order to manipulate public perception, right? And this is extremely effective. I want you guys to consider, right? And they use these characters, right? uh, where they either, you know, have character assassinations and take down entire collectives, you know, through narratives, right? Problem, reaction, solution that we seen, right? Controlled opposition, right? And like, think about polarizing figures that we have today, right? Everybody in the public spotlight, public figures, right? People that are incredibly what we consider, you know, important or prominent within the public arena, right? They are incredibly polarizing figures, and you can see this gap being widened, right, through this type of disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda campaign, right? Think about it. Like I was just referring to Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk. There is hardly anyone that has the opinion of Elon that he is either, you know, that can see where, you know, he does some good things, he's got some questionable things, right? He appears to have a good character, right? But at the same time, he's, you know, got his hands in some things that are very questionable, right? And he still is one of these elites and, you know, part of all of this, you know. And within the government, he bought his way into the government. He's very powerful, the richest man in the world, right? People either love the man or they hate the man. So they're completely all in with him, and they think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and talk about all the amazing things he does by defending free speech, giving people free internet, right? Helping people through neural lace be able to walk or overcome seizures and different, you know, sicknesses. and it's all beautiful on that side of it, right? And then you have the other side, right? Which thinks, he, like I said, has bought his way into political power. He's trying to put chips in your head, right? Like, so same thing with Donald Trump, right? You have pro-Trump or anti-Trump. You have one side of the people that completely hate and despise, right? With vitriol, they hate Trump, right? And they think he is a racist, misogynist, just a gross character, lacking integrity, right? Like womanizer. He's just a piece of dog shit in their eyes, right? The worst human being on the face of the earth. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. He's all of these things, right? Right? Total dictator. And they compare him to Hitler and all of this, which I've seen some very interesting comparisons. I got an email from a viewer and a friend. He's a cool guy. Actually, wrote me a lot of cool stuff, giving me a lot of information for this channel. Even the idea to do the Tartarian video that I did, and he showed me this piece on Hitler and Trump, and it was just showing all these actions and how the similarities. So I mean, I see, where people can get it right through the nationalists and all of this. So it's like this very divisive shit, this extreme border policies, all of that. And people compare him to that, right? And then you have the other side that believe the guy is sent directly from God. They believe he's reincarnation of Cyrus, the King Cyrus the Great. They believe he is the savior of the Jewish people, right? The defender of, and like the Superman against anti-Semitism, and um, and that he is the savior of America. So just think about it. The Constitution, all this, they believe he is just a miracle with feet. And you got to think about it, like just how divisive this is, and then look at public opinion and look at social media. You have, like I said, fact checkers, and a lot of the shit ain't even true or real. I'll tell you, just for an example, on Facebook, I posted a meme after he got, popped in his ear. And it was a joke that said, he's like, I grow the best ear back. My ear grows back so fast. And Facebook literally got me for disinformation, saying that it wasn't true, that it was false information, right? Demonetized my page under my name on Facebook for that. Then I posted a meme with Jeffrey Dahmer on it, and it was talking about, something basically about, it didn't say anything about eating people. It says, when the groceries run out, we always have each other. It was funny. This is clearly humor, right? And they got that for dangerous organization and dangerous individuals. And I can't even live stream or anything on this shit. Because of these things. And then I showed a video not too long ago. I got 1.4 million views on this fucking thing. And it was a video. I have it posted here on YouTube in my shorts, and it's showing like the young girl talking about the satanic sacrifices and stuff like that, and they got me for promoting violence and shit like that. So, you do have like this whole truth committee, and it's like they are regulating what's true and what's false. And it's like they're even taking things that are meant to be humorous or shit, parodies. And, remember all of the censorship on YouTube and all the comedians that were being deplatformed, and like the cancel culture and shadow banning and all of this, deciding what's real and what's not. And like, there's so much people that will absolutely put out, just intentionally put out fake information. They'll put out like, just for instance, I live in Cincinnati and I love the Bengals, and they'll put out fake things about Bengals players saying they were re-signed for amounts of money that like it didn't even happen, right? Or you'll see celebrities saying they passed away, you know, and they haven't passed away. Or you know, they will give an incomplete statistic about something politically, and just because it's incomplete, it'll be true, but it won't have the context, and that'll be how they call it disinformation. It's like people put out things that are intentionally false, you know, and this is, you know, everyday people that are doing this. So it's like people don't know what to believe and what not to believe now. So this agenda has definitely, you know, been accomplished for sure, right? Definitely been accomplished. So where are we at here? Where was I at? Got so much shit, guys. I have got so much shit on all this. I'm gonna try. Yeah, here we go. I'm gonna try to hit as much of this as I can tonight, too. Honestly, and back to the cognitive warfare. There is no commonly accepted definition for cognitive warfare. The notion of cognitive warfare is still not really well understood and is very often confused with information or cyber warfare. Defining cognitive warfare, historically, the term cognitive warfare has been referred to as the use of the means of action that a state or an influential group makes in order to manipulate the spontaneous mechanisms of the cognition of an enemy or its people. So, who is the enemy if this is happening to the population? In order to weaken, penetrate, influence, or even subdue or destroy them. Although it's an integral part of the military art, it is, in this sense, a new disciplinary field that requires to be better identified. It comes from the cyber techniques of information warfare and from the human aspect of soft power or influence. Right. And we see these soft coups and shit like that have taken place. Right. The United States government through the CIA, right? Kermit Roosevelt and how he overthrew Iran by doing these things. This has happened a lot, right? The media and all of this participates in these soft coups by all. And think about, you know, the polarizing effect on Trump. You know, they're not even allowed, the mainstream media, the legacy media is not even allowed to say anything good about Trump, right? And it's creating this polarizing effect. This is intentional, guys, right? Some of the alliance's adversaries have clearly understood the military interest of cognitive warfare. By nature, it has a global military dimension and covers both the strategic and operational dimensions. It has undergone a remarkable surge with the advent of digitization of strategic decision support and the exponential profusion of big data and analytics for information, wargaming, and the conduct of operations. It is progressively invading the entire field of digital usage and silently allowing the implementation of policies of interference and counter interference, of cognitive attrition, and or defense of the populations that would be subjected to it. And see, they're even telling you it's silently allowing the implementation of policies of interference, right? So these disinformation and misinformation agents, right, and bots and shit like that are intentionally putting out bullshit, right? Fake news. And you guys remember that Trump's first round, right? Fake news is what he used to describe the legacy in the mainstream media. And what ended up happening to that term? It got flipped around, right? Inverted and used against the very population, right? It's like, oh, this is fake news, that is fake news. And then all of a sudden, if you weren't the mainstream or the legacy media, you were fake news, right? If you didn't go along with the narrative, you were fake news. You guys remember all the C-19 shit. They had doctors and experts and all these different people that were professionals that were extremely and overly qualified to give their opinions and diagnosis in particular events and situations that lost their jobs, their credibility, and all this because they were fake news. You guys will remember as well the deplatforming and shit like that happened during that time. 2020 in particular was my biggest year ever as far as content creation, but it was also the year where I sank like a fucking ton of bricks financially because of what the system, the attacks. I was deplatformed. My Discord server, I had fucking like 1,500 people on a private Discord server, and we would do private videos, which I have a new Discord server. I don't have that many people in there. And we'd have a great time having these private shows and conversations and open mics on it. And because I allowed people to freely post whatever they wanted to post on there, I was hit with medical misinformation, right? And they took my server away. You guys remember Adam Marfugel, right, of Marfugel News? He had like a Discord server of like 20-something thousand people. Now imagine that. I remember him crying on his channel, and I'm not making fun of him. I know what it is to put in so much time, energy, effort to organically cultivate, right, a community like that without, paying for it and bots and having it fake, but having it being organic and real people. And he cultivated, over 20,000 something people on his server. And what it was used for, if you guys remember, his particular server was for prepping, right? It was for prepping. And we know that when we looked at the federal ICE agent that committed suicide, that took himself out, Pier 40 on New York, the 40-year-old, which the numerology and all of that and symbolism and that is, crazy. Who knows how real all of that was? Used a 40 caliber, Pier 40. He was 40 years old, right? New York, he was a federal ICE agent, right? And he took himself out talking about this plan. And America was going to claim there was a cyber attack. The banks would, nobody be able to get their money from the ATMs. It was an economic collapse, and that, they were going to pretend to go after illegal aliens and put them in federal prisons, and they would gas them all. And it was really for United States citizens, and they were creating a database of preppers and dissidents and shit like that. Right. And that they would knock down the grid and communications when they were, at zero day, right? Which there is a new series on Netflix called 0 Day. Go fucking figure, right? And they would, in essence, go after, those people. That way they would have no ability to call each other or put it online and like share. And that's when they would hit them all and put them into these places. And you think about biblically, right? Biblically, when it talks about the elect and how this beast system and how they would put them in prison and, all of this, it goes right in line with all of this. So, he had this prepper, server, and it was all the different states. It had a group for like former military. It was very extremely organized. He had put a lot of time, energy, and effort clearly into that. And then just, taking it right from him. So the massive, whoops, let's go back down here. Silently allowing the implementation of policies of interference and counter-interference, of cognitive attrition, and of defense of the populations that would be subjected to it. The massive explosion of behavioral data made available by the advent of social media has empowered researchers to make significant advances in the understanding of the dynamics of individuals and large groups online by combining system engineering with social sciences. And think about that, attacking individuals, right, online and large groups, right? As this field of research expands, opportunities multiply to use this knowledge to forge powerful new techniques, not only to understand, but also to shape the behavior and beliefs of people, both individually and globally. Behavioral economics adapts psychology research to economic models, thus creating more accurate representation of human interactions. It is therefore both a reasoned set of attack processes, but also countermeasures and preventative measures. It could tentatively be defined as, quote, the art of using technologies to alter the cognition of human targets, most often without their knowledge and consent. And speaking of human targets, let's see where this is at here, right? We have the Targeted Individual Handbook, and we're just going to skim through this. I'm not going to go through this whole fucking thing, right? But this is the handbook for the targeted individuals to identify and counter gang stalking and directed energy weapons. And this shows you, right, just how fucking crazy this is. The phenomenon of state-sponsored terrorism is nothing new and has been orchestrated by the architects of destruction, the hidden hand of Judeo-Freemasonry since time immemorial. Imposing trauma-based mind control on the common folk is the mechanism of power relied upon to maintain power mind control, world control. The shadow government of the cabal is comprised of blanks, a biological blank race bound up with the entities which control them, and their blank goyim, meaning stupid animals, referring to the non-blanks, tools that they exploit to absorb total power for themselves. The cabal has been in existence for thousands of years and is poised for the realization of their plans for global dominion and enslavement of all to their despotic will as of the time of this writing. This handbook treats of the foremost particular means employed in the manipulation of the common folk beyond that of chemtrails, electromagnetic field broadcast from cell towers and other arrays, poison food, GMOs, genetically modified, right? Water supply, chlorine, fluoride, estrogenic substances, and synthetic chemicals, coerced taxation and wage slavery, media and education indoctrination system, propaganda, and mind control, among other technotronic control mechanisms. The cabal has allegiance towards itself alone and to the entities which control it. The society engineered and controlled by the cabal is structured as a trapezoidal geometrical figure in terms of power share. Blanks are at the top of the trapezoid in the physical dimension, with Freemasons and other Illuminist groups subordinate. Under the controlling elite, the population is divided into rival camps based upon occult principles of polarity. And we talked about this polarity, right? And this dualism. Masculine, right wing, and feminine, left wing. The whole of the system of the Judeo-Masonic theocracy operates in secrecy, is hierarchically compartmentalized, with the advancement or demotion based upon the degree of loyalty given to the cabal and the use value of the individual thereto. And let's see if I can pull up this video just to kind of go with this here. See if I got it here. Right here. Right, and this shows you this is your cabal.
Chappelle has never been a part of the Illuminati. They don't want him or me or people like us. But now it's not necessary for us to stir up that hornet's nest unless we intend to get stung 1,000,000 times. I didn't understand that. They had to sting me 1,000,000 times. I'm still not going to join hard because it was his turn next. Some of us are against the Illuminati, and we are against the Illuminati at our own detriment. When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them. Nobody likes them.
My take on the Illuminati is all these rappers are wannabes. They wanna be. You know, it's the same way when rappers were, oh, I'm John Gotti and I'm mafia, mafioso. It's they are promoting the Illuminati imagery. They are, and they're doing, you know, the one eyes and the horns and you know, all of the Baphomet goats. That they are doing it. It's unquestionable that they are doing it. Now, are they part of the big world power? That's, you know, no, they're not in charge of it. They're nothing. They're just rappers rapping, you know, and try to pretend like they're part of something bigger than.
And think about the secret covenant, right? The secret covenant talks about the ones that they call initiates, right? They believe they're part of this hidden hand. They believe they're part of this brotherhood, this fraternal order, or this sisterhood, and they're truly not. They're on the outside looking in. They will never actually be, a part of the true thing. They're useful fucking idiots, and they're sellouts to their species.
Then they really want to be part of that, but they're not part of that.
Music business plays this Jedi mind trick on you where the whole thing's set up to be rapacious and take advantage of your weakness. If you get success and you have leverage, they'll get out of your way because you're making them a lot of money. But the minute you're not making them as much money, then they step in and they start playing these Jedi mind tricks on you. We know what to do. The public's going to forget about you. I mean, I've heard all these things. Like, this kind of weird, like, yeah, you're in the room, but, we're the arbiter of whether you can stay in the room. They do these 360 deals where it's like, if you get a perfume deal, if you like your whole world,
They own you.
We own a piece of your whole world.
You can go to YouTube and Google and search on YouTube Illuminati, and you'll see stuff you wouldn't believe about very famous people, very famous musicians, and their music videos and images you clearly see in them that are satanic images.
Telling you facts. Hear it. This industry is not what it seems to be. Listen, this is a rapper. You got 200 followers. I bet you there's rappers in here right now that can rap way better than me. You can rap way better than me. You will never be where I'm at because this industry is rigged. It's rigged. I'm telling you.
Disney stars. Are you all in a secret Illuminati-like club?
No.
Is it because you can't tell me if you are?
No.
Is that true, Sam?
Inconclusive. Can you imagine?
All our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. And I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12 way down the line, but I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time, but now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends. If anybody can put on paper what our government and the American government, etc., and the Russian, what they are actually trying to do, and what they think they're doing, I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing.
Which they killed him, right? That was like some fucking outrage fan, JFK, and he stopped playing ball. His speech on secret societies, they smoked him, right? He was part of the 13 powerful families. He was killed on the 33rd parallel in Dallas, Texas. I was actually born on the 33rd parallel, and I'm a 33 life path. That's called a king kill, right? And the way that they autopsy their bodies, like King Von, which was another king kill, a rapper, they cut his body into a Y. They did the same thing with Lee Harvey Oswald. These are ritualistic ways that they do the autopsies, all of this shit. And it's, you'll see them make the symbolism, the hand symbols, the hidden hand, or that means your throat will be cut if you speak about this or the accentuation of the eye or whatever. And I can tell you this from my own personal experience. If you do not play ball with this, and it's like when, and it's like, I'll tell you, I'm not going to like say a lot on this, but you will almost see whatever niche or industry you're in, there'll be like an inner circle or a club or a clique or, and in order, for you to get into that and be a part of that, you have to play ball. You have to play by their rules. And once you hit a certain level and you're, there is a hierarchical structure to that. If you don't go along with that, right? And when your number comes up and you have that, if they consider you or whatever, or try to bring you into that inner circle, if you don't do it, they ruin you. They either, take you out or they fucking destroy you, one of the two. They will make sure, you don't reach prominence. And a lot of times, you'll see people's go bankrupt or their careers will fucking end. And once they have them on their knees, that's when they're ready to capitulate and roll over.
I think they're all insane, but I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what's insane about it.
Same thing with the insanity thing, right? If somebody starts to know too much or is coming out of line, they will put them on medications, say they're on drugs, just all of these different, say they're acting erratic, then all of a sudden they've offed themselves, they have aneurysms, ODs, all these things.
Both of you guys had mentioned about the Illuminati and how hip hop sort of falls into the Illuminati trap. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think a brother use anything in order to make it. He'll get out there and act like he's sucking or put on a dress and have a Boo Bear back at the house. It's all about profiteering at this point. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I take everything with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? As far as how deep I think somebody is. Now the influence on the people could be damaging.
Had we sold our soul to the devil? How else can you explain us being here on the
About a week, not today, but about a week ago, I sold my soul.
But it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
You were part of the Illuminati.
Yes. No, I'm not. Did that come up as a lie when I said yes?
Yes, that's true.
Oh, that means I'm not. She
you
said, are
both
you a part of
answers.
the Illuminati? And I said, yes.
And then you changed it.
And then I said, no. But I said, I'm just kidding.
Don't try to work the system, okay? Let me work you. You need to
I
stop.
am not a part of the Illuminati.
Ran into the devil, baby, only 20 bills. Spent the night in Utah and gave up. Who wants to pray to the devil?
And this is where, too, we come into this whole aspect of, and it's wild. Not only do we have the MK Ultra mind control, right? And you got to think like scientists are like one of the top tiers of this pyramidal structure, right? The scientists are the sorcerers, in essence, right? Doing these mad scientist experiments. They are the magicians, right? That are casting spells on the masses. And then your stars, your heavenly host, your fallen angels, your stars, your celebrities, right, are also casting spells and hypnotizing the masses and their idols being worshipped. And then you get into this, the PDF shit, you know what I'm talking about, right? The PDF motherfuckers, right, that do things with the youngins. And that whole pizza shit. And then it gets into human and child traffic, right? The pizza and the chicken. And it gets into organ harvesting for the people that have been sacrificed, and it's a sick rabbit hole that this goes into. And that's where you get these giant rings of these people, right? And they're protected like, Diddy was and Epstein was and all of this, because they're orchestrating this whole ring, and where they have these people come to these islands or these private parties or whatever, and they're either drugged or whatever, and everything's filmed, and they're compromised by doing homosexual activities or with underage, or and this is to have dirt on them in case they, so they can have scandals to ruin their career and ruin their reputation. It's a character assassination. And if they talk, then it's an actual into them.
Yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes. It is used for a reason. He's willing to just like cut his chest open with broken glass and be like, take my soul.
From a living human body.
The offer me human blood said it would take me higher than I'd ever been in my life. But I was kidding. I told him I'd just as soon have an ounce of so pure adrenochrome.
Suck baby's blood. Put it on my face.
One of Oprah's favorites, Fountain of Youth.
How come it's red?
Cells from baby foreskin.
The young blood from teenagers.
Their hair, if it was gray, just turns dark.
Plan, like we used to go to meetings on Wednesday in black cloaks, draw like a big star in a circle.
And the Wednesday thing too, you guys are gonna see. I'll show you the clip of the one I got 1.4 million views of that young girl. She's being interviewed for like a television interview or something. She's talking about Wednesdays and how they string up it's fucking mind blowing.
We have like these cups of blood.
And he, Little Nas X, when he won his last award, he wanted to thank the gay agenda, and it was showing like people that knew him from high school said he's not homosexual. This is just, right? They are perpetuating these things for the masses. It's all brainwashing, and it's like, think about it. And it's not to say, and I have a lot of, and I hate, and I don't want to sound like a bigot or anything like that. Honestly, I don't, or judgmental in any way, shape, form, or facet. And I don't care what your religious beliefs and ideologies are, your schools of thought is when it comes to this, your principles, whatever, right? You can do what you do. I do what I do, and I believe what I believe, and I keep my beliefs private as far as like certain things I believe. But I do have a lot of, and when I say a lot, there's a fair amount of transgender and homosexual people that watch this channel and are part of our community, and everyone is welcome, in my opinion, right? But this is what I'll say: it goes against Christian morals and principles, right? So, and if these people are raised in that fashion, it gets them to go against their own morals and principles, which is what I'm saying. They're basically controlling them and getting them to be at odds with themselves, as well as, they see it as this perverse thing against nature as well, right? Within these religions. But also, you think about it, if there's like a depopulation agenda, right? You can't reproduce if you're homosexual or, LGBTQ. You can't reproduce. As well as, the trans agenda, when people take these hormone blockers and have these surgeries and all of this, it sterilizes them for the rest of their life, So, and you think about Baphomet, right? Lucifer, and the androgynous nature of it as well, right? So it's all part of this, Luciferian satanic cultish thing. But I don't want to smear or down anybody that does believe those things, because there's good ass people that are homosexual and that are trans, and not everybody's a fucking weirdo, a creep, a bad person that does bad things to kids just because they're into that stuff or because that's who they are, right? So I don't want to, put that out there. And like I said, if you can believe what you want to believe, but I believe to each their own, and consenting adults can do whatever they choose to. But what's fucked up is when they are intentionally putting out these things like guns, drugs, violence, and rap music, all of these different things, right? Promiscuity, sexual promiscuity, the feminist movement to take women away from being their pure divine feminine and trying to get them to adopt this toxic feminism, and it's really just trying to be masculine like men, and it's very toxic and unattractive. Same thing with men with toxic masculinity, or the beta males, and they're trying to be more feminine than women. It's just like, when it's not natural, right? And when you're being coerced and manipulated and controlled into these things, right? It's perverse, right? It's going against that person's natural behavior, nature, and all of that.
Drink it pretty much. And we kind of like plants, like.
And the blood, the baby's blood and stuff like that, the children's stuff like that. I believe they have some type of platelets or something like that within the blood that, and you think about like telomeres and shit like that, right? The blood has something within it that essentially like rejuvenates people, because we don't produce the older we get, right? Not only do our telomeres burn out, but like the platelets that keep us young and shit within our blood, the plasma or whatever it is, you know, it loses its potency and its effect. So it has that as well, with as far as ritual aspects. And you think about like people in religion, in particular Christianity, and think about the anagram of Christianity, rearrange the letters, and it's Antichrist, right? And you're celebrating the sacrifice, right, of the Son of God, right? He's being tacked up, tortured on a cross, right? And it's made to be this beautiful thing, but it's like his moment, of sacrifice. Instead of like celebrating his overcoming and being resurrected from the dead, it's like it's graven images of him being tortured and dying, and then like all of the rituals that go within that. This is my body, this is my blood, right? It's very satanic in nature.
World domination, like to make everyone gay and then like decrease the world population.
Jimmy Kimmel, viral this. I fight to eradicate childhood malnutrition from the planet. And until they release the flight logs, you, the mainstream media, Hollywood, are all pedophiles to me. Eat dick.
Invented AI.
Eat
child
dick.
molesting robot. It's a robot that is designed to molest children.
Babies, mama slaves, working.
Y'all on here if y'all think I sold my soul. Y'all coming right with me, you dummies.
You'll do anything. Lil Uzi Vert and his name, Lil Uzi Vert, Lucifer, right? And he's literally at a concert saying like, this is the rapture and you're all still here. So I'll show the clip of it, man. It's fucking crazy, the shit that they say to these people.
Thing to get the money.
I sold my soul to the devil, I'll never get it back. I sold my soul to the devil for a small price.
I sold my soul to the devil.
And I'm done with the devil.
I kind of get possessed by the devil when I'm performing. And I'm like, if you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer.
And the possession, this is mind control. This is MK Ultra, trauma-based mind control. When you fracture and fragment a person, they develop dissociative identities, right? In essence, right, those fractures are, they're fragmented within their mind because that trauma severs connection. So for one, it fucks with their memories. That's why most of the masses in the population, because of the gore and all of these negative, ugly, distorted frequencies and things that we're watching, right, on television and movies, right, destroys our memories, right? So we're fragmenting every time, or we're severing, because our brain fires on electrical synapses, right? So those electrical connections are severed, right? And we repress naturally. The human mind represses negative experience naturally. Bad traumatic experience, it tries to repress it. So we fracture those connections. So it goes from one connection to two, it splits off. And where they split off, there is a split in the psyche, right? Split personality. And that's an alter, right? An alter is created. And that's where you get the phrase of alter ego, because that split is where they start inserting the program, inserting a new persona or a new mask, if you will, which is, remember, a demon. It's a demonstration, a persona, a mask. It's a mask that they're wearing, right? And it can be triggered through neuro-linguistic programming. They use certain words and hypnosis to program to invoke or evoke that demon within those people. It's very occultic in nature.
What was your bargain? To get where I am now.
The devil gonna make you do so crazy for that money.
God don't want me to do this because this is what the devil wants you to go through to destroy yourself.
I sold my soul to the devil.
All the good girls go to hell.
No doubt about it.
Let me just say this. Brad's one of the greatest stuntmen I've ever met. Probably the best.
I'm a very physically creative person.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
In a movie like Zoolander, when they're showing you that they're controlling Derek Zoolander's mind through mind control, you realize that they're trying to desensitize you and to make you think that what you're watching is fiction because it's in a comedy.
It's like a mass MK Ultra now. Their purpose is to capture the minds of the people and feed them false history. The CIA is funneling information into Hollywood. Hollywood is putting out in the movies, and the population believes it.
All right, so look, here's the deal. They have been desensitizing us since we were born. And I'll give you some examples. Let's start with the big one. Let's start with words we hear all the time and never even think about. Let's start with the word entertainment. To entertain. What does that mean? To bind or hold. To bind or hold what? An audience's attention. Okay, now let's take the word Hollywood. Where does that come from? Well,
entertainment, mental mentality, to bind or hold your mind, right?
Hollywood comes from the holly tree. And the ancient druids back in the day used to take the holly tree, make wands to weave spells, cast spells, or channel spells. And when they needed help, they would consult the magi's or the mediums of the day to help channel their spells to the population. We'll cut to today. What do we have in our houses? We have these black boxes. What are they called? TVs. But if you stop and you say the word television,
a vision.
And when you turn on that television, what do you get? What's the first thing that pops up? A list of channels. And when you turn on those channels, what's on those channels? Programming. They are programming you. They've been programming your whole life. You don't even know it. They do it with your music. They do it with your TV. They do it with your movies. They do it with your games. They have been programming us and programming you since you were little, and you don't even know it because you don't even question it.
Same thing on social media as well. And I've talked about this before. YouTube, right? You being the tube, right? The TV, right? Through the black mirror, right? Of the cell phones, right? And it's YouTube channels, right? And we're broadcasting, right? Content. So, and people are subscribing, right? Scribes, right? Subscribes.
Starting in 1900, we entered a previously unimaginable time of modern technology. Advances that allowed the rulers of this world to construct and direct our stories in ways we previously never imagined. As a result, new techniques to control the population were realized. These are the people from the companies that we have trusted to deliver us our news and tell our stories.
These children are not just kidnapped and in some cases bred by families as a cash crop.
What kinds of things went on in the family? Rituals in which babies would be sacrificed. There were people who bred babies in their family.
We We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery.
And speaking of this, I have a video, guys. It's on one of my devices. And I was going to post it as a short or a reel, but I just couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to it. And it's at one of these ships, like the shipping containers, right? And this just shows you how fucked up people are. It's in a shipping container. And the operator within the container moving these containers around, you can hear the little ones blood-curdling screams as they're moving the storage containers around. For one, I thought if I posted that on Facebook or whatever, they would slam me for it, like they do everything. So I didn't. And for two, it's just like I just can't. I can't. I can't even watch it or hear it myself because it just does something to me. So I don't want to glorify that or anything like that. So that's why I didn't bring it out for YouTube even for tonight's video. But I'm telling you, this shit does go on, and it takes a special kind of evil to hear those, those little ones, and knowing they're inside that container and not doing shit.
For child sex abuse, it's also child torture.
Driver, child snuff industry, high-ranking government officials, and military agencies orchestrate it.
Was underneath the Getty. I was there for a cock party.
So they sliced the head off, but still hanging on.
And this is the girl that got me the 1.4 million views on Facebook, the one that's talking about it. She's talking about on Wednesday is the special day. Same thing with all these others, right? And she's talking about what they were doing to, babies. And she talks about it so naturally. And she talks about how the social workers who are in it, and you can think of like in Pennsylvania and different states, like Child Protective Services, and how they've been caught up in this shit, right? It's just crazy.
Okay. Yes, and then there's a big white bowl on the floor, and then the blood drips in, and then we pour it
right
in
here.
a big silver goblet.
Because you have adrenalized blood.
From a living human body. The offer me human blood said it would take me higher than I'd ever been in my life. I was kidding. I told him I'd just as soon have an ounce of so pure adrenochrome.
Suck baby's blood.
Put it on my face.
One of Oprah's favorites, Fountain of Youth.
How come it's red?
Cells from baby foreskin.
The young blood from teenagers.
Their hair, if it was gray, it turns dark. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world.
Yes.
And this is from Isaac Cappy. If you guys remember, before he was suicided, which maybe we'll show a clip of him in a moment. He showed inside, one of these spas, footage inside one of these spas on his channel, and he exposed a lot of the people in Hollywood before they took his ass out.
We do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes.
It's also the use of children for harvesting body organs. And then you have ritual ceremonies and ritual murder, as well as incidental murder. I know the system. I've been a spy all over the world. I have created the Marine Corps Intelligence Command.
CERN.
I have trained.
They say that this was not.
Intelligence and
People
law
don't know if that was
representatives
real or
over
not.
8,000
I've shown
of them
that
from
video
across
before
66
in the
countries.
past.
Potentially hundreds of military employees and contractors who may have bought child pornography.
And also with this as well, we know that this is also used to set up individuals. Also, they, FBI, CIA places on people's computers and shit like that, right?
Online, but haven't been prosecuted or even in some cases investigated. That's right, you heard me, child pornography. As many as 1,700 names, according to a U.S. Senator, on a list of 5,200 from an internet sting operation overlooked the first time around 4 years ago.
They're all, without exception, good people trapped in a bad system. Now that we've had Pizzagate.
Welcome, friendly people, to Comet Pizza.
And I've shown this video as well, right, from the Comet Ping Pong. And like I said, this gives transgenders and stuff bad names and homosexuals bad names, but some of them are predatory people, just like there's straight people that are just predatory people, right? And this person in particular is extremely predatory, and they're joking about young boys.
Ping pong.
And little boys. And children.
We all have preferences.
For example, which opened people's mind, is we could achieve an opening of the public mind. All of the United Nations organizations, the Boy Scouts of America, all of the child services agencies across the United States of America.
There you go.
Parents across this country need to be warned of the dangers of the Child Protective Services.
Sudden and violent deaths of Miss Schaefer and her husband.
And ultimately, pedophiles end up rising in the ranks and controlling those organizations. So that
And
an organization...
think about Seth Rich, who WikiLeaks, right, with Julian Assange. Think about all of this, man. These people they don't make it when they play around with this.
That initially started out in the service of children becomes an organization that is in fact hunting children. These children are so abused. I mean, we're talking rapes by the hour and so forth, that they reach their expiration date within 2 years.
Child molesting robot.
And then they're murdered with impunity, or they're ritually murdered if that's what they've been bred for.
So, ouch. And hold on, let's see if I can show you. I got one more short one I want to show you here. This is just tell me this is just not fucking absolute insanity, right? On a level, like it goes from just one thing to the next, 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 and it's all fucking connected. All connected. Where is okay, here we go. Yeah, there's no such thing as brain dead. And this is why I've always advised people against being organ donors. Okay.
When you go to sign up to be an organ donor, you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and you see the brightly colored signs that say, give the gift of life. You're never offered a consent form. You're never told that when you become a brain dead organ donor, you are not biologically dead. These people have a beating heart. Their lungs are working. Their digestive system works. Their kidneys work.
Organ harvesting.
People who have been declared brain dead have delivered healthy babies. These people are in no way dead. And there have been a couple cases just recently in the news. Terrence was what seems like a wonderful kid, a 19-year-old football player. He was in a motor vehicle accident and in the goodness of his heart got out of his car to go check on the people in the other vehicle when a third vehicle ran into him and gave him a terrible head injury. His parents have shocking and horrible videos that they posted on social media of them begging medical professionals to come and help their son, all to no avail because he had been declared brain dead. The other case is the case of Amber Ebanks. She was a 23-year-old Jamaican business student in New York. So she drove herself to Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx. 10 days later, according to her sister Kay and Dr. Paul Byrne, who examined her, she was declared brain dead, though, again, she had a beating heart. She had lungs that were working. She looked like every other patient in the hospital that was getting better. And her family fought for her. They wanted care for her, but they were pressured almost every other day. Doctors wanted to remove her life support. The organ procurement team actually showed up the very first day after her procedure, even before she was declared brain dead, being interested in seeing her become an organ donor, which her family refused.
Think about that. And this happened to my father as well. 2020, just a really crazy year for me. Like I said, I had I had really reached peak as far as like financially and done some little radio shows and My first time like getting a magazine article. I'd done a lot of cool stuff that year as far as career wise and all of that. And then towards the end of that year, right? My father died, and just like I said, my business was destroyed. I was extremely targeted. I was co-opted by someone that basically tried to destroy my fucking life. So I, impregnated them. It was just a crazy, crazy thing. Fucking crazy thing that year. And when my father passed, it was during the pandemic stuff. And you guys can remember back then I was doing the 800 number, right? I forget what the 800 number was. It was something with my name or some shit. And right after my dad died, I had like people calling in on the 800 number, making fun of my dad passing. Like that's how shitty like the targeting was. It was crazy. My criminal record was released when I went on a radio show. It was nuts, dude. It's just nuts. And when my father passed, it was during the scamdemic shit. And remember, my dad was on kidney dialysis, and you remember with the NIH stuff and Fauci and what he did. And remember, he's been pardoned now by Biden. So nobody will ever get any retribution for any of what took place there. But, he got in major shit during HIV and all of that for remdesivir. And what it was doing, it was like the treatment was fucking right to folks, causing kidney failure. My dad was on kidney dialysis. We gave him the remdesivir and it took him out. And how many different people during those hospitals during that time was taken out as well? And what it actually did after the remdesivir, they put him on the ventilator, right? The ventilator, his lungs filled up with fluid and they collapsed and his heart stopped and his brain died. And they unplugged his ass in Ohio. They had to wait 72 hours. And the fucking minute they took him off of it, right? For just like this. And he was added to the number, added to the list of all the other people, right? And it was to, he went down as a COVID death, and it was to really add to the federal funding and all of that shit. And that's what went into the agenda of the jabs and everything. So like, it was, and I can remember, back then, before they took the Discord server, having people who worked in the medical field, right, being forced into all this. It was just a very fucked up time in history, a very shameful time in history. And a very hard time for me personally, what I went through. Yeah, so it was tough, it was tough, and it was tough for a lot of people during that, and like people have forgotten the value of life. This is when you'll take somebody out to sell their fucking organs, or your job is to protect little ones, and you're really doing it to track them down and go take them, and just fucking mind blowing. And same thing, like I said, with like people that are part of communities as well. I had people that were part of my communities, people I thought were friends and all kinds of shit that were, trying to handle me, co-opt me, mind control me, hex me, just doing terrible, terrible, terrible shit. And everybody who participates in these things, you got to think they're victimized too. They're victimized too. They get co-opted for a reason. You know, they either have committed criminal acts, criminal activities that, they have like prison or jail time over their heads, and that's how they get them to capitulate. Um, or uh, they are in fear of their lives or their families, or they owe a bunch of money. They're in trouble with, mobs and fucking criminal, enterprises to where, they're in danger. And it's like they're willing to do anything to save their own skin, to save their own ass. It's not always because they belong to some fucking cult or secret society. Sometimes they've just been co-opted, right? Themselves, and have been put in a place of total, danger. The people they love in danger. And people are cowards. People are fucking cowards. They truly are. They are cowards. They would, rather than them take it on the chin for the things that they've done, the criminal acts they've done, or pay what they owe, or right, like face their consequences for what they've been involved in. And not all of them done things bad. Some of them just were targeted, just like others. But rather than them take their licks, they would much rather save their own skin by, sacrificing yours. you know Same thing with, and this is why I was saying at the very beginning of all this, how important it is for us to come together, like, and unite. The whole divide and conquer, all of it. It's beat the brakes off of us, as communities, right? Truther community, spiritual community, right? All of it. These communities online, um, they used to be very, very tight, a lot of them. At least this community was very tight. Very good people, and they're still very good people, here. But, um, people are driven by all kinds of things, the people that join a lot of these cults and brotherhoods and shit, like, they're driven by the lust of fame. Right? They want fame so fucking bad, success so fucking bad, they're willing to sell their souls for it. They're willing to sacrifice people, to do things to innocents, for that, and for the money, for the power, right? We see this with politicians, right? To where they'll be traitors to their own fucking nations and peoples, and just all of this, right? They're traitorous, treasonous bastards, right? And it's for power and money and all of this. People love to see, and we've been manipulated in mass as a collective and as a population as well, right? With like cancel culture, like, it's that lynch mob mentality, right? Like, people love to build you up, but they love to tear you down even more. And you can see why people in the public spotlight are so private about their lives, why people in these societies are so secretive as well, because if you give, and that's why when they have these things over the people's head and they leak it out, they know that they don't have to do nothing, that the public is going to lynch their fucking ass, right? They're going to burn them at the stake. It's going to become a witch hunt, right? Because people may be the biggest fan of those singers and actors and, politicians, but the moment they have something to judge them for, or the moment they have something to come after them for, they will torch their ass, right? And it's because of envy, right? You know, a lot of times, there, and it's a strange thing, but people will literally follow and watch people online that they despise and hate. Crazy. It's crazy. Like, just to root against somebody. You ever seen, like, someone that, like, is hating on someone, but they watch their every fucking move, or love to watch, people suffer that they despise. It's like, just where does this demented, sick mentality come from? It comes from hurt people, right? The masses, the population has been traumatized and beat down, manipulated, and controlled so much that they're all victimized. So they victimize one another, right? They become useful fucking idiots, right? And it's like they perpetuate the division. They'll burn you at the stake themselves. They don't need to be pushed to do it anymore. That's like the well has been poisoned, um, and there's very, very few and far between, nowadays. And I feel like all humans are naturally good. We're inherently good, but because of life and experience and stress, and you think about people with 9 to 5s and people to support, and their failures and giving up on their dreams, and just there's so many things that make people bitter, and shit like that in life. And they a lot of them do one of two things. They either direct it at themselves and struggle with addictions and things like that, or they directed it at others. They directed it at others. So, and it's sad. It's sad, and that's why you see such division now. That's why nobody truly supports people the way that they used to. When I started doing this, there was so much love and support from people in so many different, and it's not just my community, but so many communities. You would just see people just really lifting each other up, and it's like there is almost an arrogance that comes with the whole awakening process. It's supposed to be this humbling experience of your ego, mastering self-mastery, dying to your ego, mastering the ego and putting the spirit in charge. But instead of that, because of these perverse ideologies of the new age concepts of where they say it's self-love, but it's really selfishness and all these things, right? Which people are naturally looking, just like hypocrites do and false prophets do with the Bible, right? They pick and choose the verses that they want to use to support their ideologies and their beliefs and their doctrines, right? And they ignore the ones that aren't convenient. People do this with basically a lot of shit, right? They use things to support, their horse shit, their bullshit, and excuse the things that they do in life so they can continue, to never change. And it's like people will use spirituality to bury their heads in the sand. They'll be like, "Oh, I manifest my own reality, and I choose not to participate in any negativity," and da 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 da. And it's like, you don't create your own reality. For one, you have some limited control, but it's a collective reality. We all create it collectively. It's a collective experience. You're not in charge. If you were, then you could just bring world peace instantly. You know, but it's really an excuse for them to go back to burying their heads in the sand and, to be selfish and self-centered and say, well, if it don't affect me, then I don't give a fuck, you know? And that was the thing about all the COVID shit. A lot of people were directly affected, and it woke a lot of people up because they couldn't ignore it anymore. Like I said, most people will put their heads down, and if it's not happening to them, then they could care less, right? It's like if they're not suffering, if it's not at their front doorstep, if it's not affecting them directly, they don't give a fuck. Whether it's human trafficking, the PDF motherfuckers with the pizza and chicken, ritualistic abuse and sacrifice, and all of these things, right? The technologies, all of it. People are not up in arms about it because they don't feel like they are directly affected. And a lot of them, It's the arrogance of the ego. It's like, oh, well, they're not mind controlling me. I make my own choices. I make my own decisions. Nobody's manipulating me. Bull fucking shit. Bullshit. They're getting us all. We're all fucking programmed. We've all been indoctrinated from fucking birth, right? Through our school system, our religions, the programming through the television, pop culture, music, movies, the whole nine. Fashion, all of it, you name it, including our peers and friend groups and social structures, all of it. You know? And you can either become one of those weirdos that completely abstain from everything, you know, and that's a hard thing to do because then you punish yourself and become an isolationist yourself, and that can create bitterness and change a person's personality and character and really turn them cold, and detached, and that's not a good place to be. You know, or you can educate yourself and see, you know, what's being done and understand it all. And, you know, and you can pick and choose on how, you know, you respond. And that's the key to mind control and all of this. It's like they are choosing problem, reaction, solution, right? They create the primer, the problem, right? And anticipate the reaction so they come in with the solution. So instead of being reactive to everything that's taking place in your life, like you jump back in the driver's seat when you no longer become reactive to the things that are taking place, when you no longer allow fear to dominate you, when you're no longer being willfully ignorant to the things that are going on in the world, when you're no longer only concerned with yourself and your immediate sphere of influence, and you're thinking about others, you're being selfless. I've talked about this before. If you think about God, omnipresent, right? Creator of all things, most powerful spirit in creation, gives manifestation to all of creation, the ineffable, inexpressible creator of all, source of all. You know what it is? A slave to all of us and everything. It's constantly serving, right? It's never being served, right? And in essence, that's, you know, when we build ourselves up with our learning and the refinement of ourselves and, you know, self-mastery. And I'm not saying I'm there. I'm not there. Not even fucking close. I'm always a work in progress. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to, you know, and I have ups and downs and struggles, and we all do. You know, but I try not to fucking, you know, look at others and, you know, feel I'm above their struggles, or, you know, like you just got to run your own fucking race and try to be the best version of you that you can be, and know that, you know, as long as you're doing your very best, then you can't fail. You can't fail, right? You can't fail. And it's like using our gifts that we're blessed with, no matter what we're blessed with, whether it's the gift of, you know, speaking, our minds and learning and teaching, or, you know, we're blessed with, you know, wealth and money, or fucking musically inclined or artistically creative, whatever it is. You know, you're a kind, loving person that makes people feel warm and welcome and at ease. Whatever your gift, your blessing is, that is your calling, that is your purpose, and it is meant to be used not to just serve you, but to serve, you know, humanity, you know, to serve each other, to make the world better. And if we all did that, imagine the type of world that we would live in. Imagine, you know, how beautiful of a place this would be. You know, it would be a world I think all of us would truly love to be a part of and love to experience. You know, it would. Um, okay, we've been going for a minute. I'm gonna cover one or two more things. You know, I feel like I really need to. I know I'm kind of been on a rant here, but it's like there's so much. There is so fucking much. Killer robots, UN vote, should spur treaty negotiations. Think about this shit. Fucking killer robots. Hold on. Let's see here. Killer robots. And this is how the shit is here, guys. Like, this is the world that we're walking into. This is the world that they're creating for us. And I know I'm going to have to do a part 2 to this one. I've got a couple part 2s I'm going to do. I want to show you, right? This is the killer drones and robots here. And they're trying to make it cute, right? How cute, right? How cute.
Faster than a human,
Here we go. Here we go.
Customer pilots directed almost 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people. People do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions.
And you hear that? People don't. They disobey orders. They get emotional. They aim high. It's because we're inherently good, you know? That's why the creation of video games, if you guys will remember, in Vietnam, what they found, and I believe it was Vietnam, I could be wrong, but in Vietnam, young men, when they were at war, what they were experiencing was as soon as these young men would come up to the enemy or the opposing force and they made eye contact with the other young man, they couldn't pull the trigger. They couldn't pull the trigger. It goes against our nature, right? They couldn't do it. So they created video games as a form of simulation, like an exercise, right? To train your brain and your reflexes to be able to do it without emotions. And now think about our children today, generations today, right? With Call of Duty and all these extremely realistic simulations and video games, right? And extremely graphic. Think about how cold-blooded the generations are now too, right? There's no empathy, right? You ever see like the videos of like kids jumping other kids and just beating the dog shit out of them? Or when people get hurt now, instead of helping other people, what do? They pull out their fucking cell phone to film it instead of helping others. It's just, we're incredibly desensitized.
Now, trust me, these were all bad guys. Now that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was big. Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half.
The bad
Nuclear
half.
is obsolete. Take out your entire enemy, virtually
The bad
risk-free. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy. These are available today. We have a distribution network taking orders from military, law enforcement, and specialist clients.
The nation is still recovering from yesterday's incident, which officials are describing as some kind of automated attack, which killed 11 U.S. senators at the Capitol building.
They flew in from everywhere but attacked just one side of the aisle. It was chaos. People were screaming.
You can see high windows, very small, precisely punctured to gain entry to the building.
What did you do for the victim? I just did what I could for him. Things weren't even interested in me. They're just buzzing.
Government sources admit the intelligence community has no idea who perpetrated the attack, nor whether it was a state, group, or even a single individual.
So if we can't defend ourselves, then we strike back.
We are investing very heavily in classified defense projects.
Yeah, so think about this, and let me show you one more here. Let me show you one more here. Where's it at? Where's it at? There is so much, guys, honestly. Here we go.
These drones are the main battle weapon for Ukraine, and over 1 million will be sent into action this year. They have become the primary weapon for both sides to hit enemy vehicles. Thousands of drone pilots defend Ukraine, but they're increasingly losing control to signal jammers, so the country's switching to autonomous AI drones that don't need a signal. They also make it possible to attack targets in Russia. It only costs around $150 to update a drone so it can be piloted by AI, and it can take out hardware worth millions. The Ukrainian commander said he expects all drones to operate without pilots in future. The US has similar plans for its huge drone swarm program, and Trump's team plans a Manhattan Project for AI to win the race with China. First, here are the new US robots increasingly powered by AI. The Manta Ray autonomous submarine can carry large payloads and recharge itself on long missions. It's likely intended to defend Taiwan, which makes the world's AI chips, from huge fleets of Chinese ships. The US is also spending $1 billion on swarm drones. They want to hit 1,000 targets in a day with or without control signals, and they're experimenting with allowing drones to rewrite their own code. The idea is to counter China's advantage of scale. It has far more men and missiles, though it's hard to ignore the problem with this. Russia quickly responded to Ukraine's success by building more drones itself, and China will do the same with its much larger manufacturing base. So the real advantage is superior AI, from planning missions to coordinating attacks. Some drones will act as decoys and take out air defenses, while others focus on primary targets. With huge numbers of drones all communicating and reacting to live data from multiple sources, attacks can be incredibly sophisticated. But
think about the drones that were recently seen at the end of 2024 that people were mistaken for UFOs.
Now to act autonomously.
Every second, every other drone just changes its trajectory and attacks you from different sides. This is what makes swarming so powerful.
Experts warn that this would lower the barrier to war, which could quickly escalate out of control, and it would literally remove any humanity. Here a soldier begs a drone operator not to kill him. He's lucky it wasn't autonomous. These drones can recharge from power lines, which would keep swarms in action. The US and China don't allow AI near their nuclear weapons, though Russia may have resurrected a Cold War program that could launch a nuclear strike with no human oversight. A command rocket would fly across the country,
Which that has
transmitting
changed. AI is now in charge of the nuclear stockpiles. That has changed.
launch orders to nuclear silos. Other states consider this far too dangerous, risking an accident. But autonomous weapons can also destroy cities, and catastrophe is surprisingly predictable, as Stephen Fry shows in a video we made with him.
You estimated a high risk of our extinction. Does this reflect the logical AI sub-goals to survive, deceive, and gain power?
Indeed. These sub-goals emerge from a rational agent pursuing any given primary goal, not from malevolence.
None of this requires consciousness. It's all automatic, like the evolution of animals. MIT found that deceptive abilities increase with the scale of the AI. And the AIs with the highest rates of unethical behavior are most capable of achieving their goals. As AI agents take on more complex tasks, they create strategies and sub-goals which we can't see because they're hidden among billions of parameters. It's natural for AI to try and gain power because it makes everything easier, and to try to survive because you can't fetch the coffee if you're dead.
AI.
And I want you to think about programming too with, artificial intelligence. And this is where it really comes down to like a Skynet type of scenario. Let's just say hypothetically that, AI was programmed to, create world peace or something like that. Well, it doesn't have emotions, right? It just has its processes and it carries out the command. If it comes to the conclusion, right, its algorithm decides that world peace is the easiest, it's easily attainable in the most effective way and most guaranteed 100% foolproof way to attain world peace is just by destroying all of humanity, right? Or chipping everybody and not allowing anybody autonomy anymore. You see what I'm saying? This is how that would work. And this is why AI is so fucking dangerous. And even Elon Musk has talked about this existential threat from artificial intelligence, even though he continues to push forward with his neural lace and cyber trucks and all this shit, right? Tesla robots, all of this, but he understands that what could actually happen, and there's really, because of the way that technology is being expedited and it's continuously growing, quantum leaps, right? In speed and processing power and all of this, right? It's outgrowing our ability to regulate it and restrict it and rein it in,
Won't just dominate the battlefield, it's also taking over the economy. And that's driven by a race to create AGI that can do all knowledge work.
ChatGPT has scored 98% on the same 50 questions that doctors have to answer to get a medical license. Doctors only have to get a 60%.
Yeah, and the average score is a 75%. Quite frankly, I wasn't expecting the models to do as well as they did.
When AI becomes more reliable, it will transform healthcare with cheap, immediate, unlimited advice. But if AI can outperform doctors, what about the rest?
And this would be, we already have the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies, right? We are walking into this hive mind. And I want you to think about AI too. There is this premise, right? And it's a theory. It is called Roko's basilisk, right? And Roko's basilisk, and think about this. This is the crazy fucking experiment here. Roko's basilisk is a thought experiment which states there could be an otherwise benevolent artificial superintelligence, AI, in the future that would punish anyone who knew of its potential existence but did not directly contribute to its advancement or development in order to incentivize said advancement. It originated in a 2010 post at a discussion board of Less Wrong, a rationalist web forum. The thought experiment's name derives from the poster of the article. Roko and the basilisk is a mythical creature capable of destroying enemies with its stare. You can see it's basilisk, I guess. While the theory was initially dismissed as nothing but conjecture or speculation by many Less Wrong users, Less Wrong co-founder Eliza Yudkowsky considered it a potential information hazard and banned discussion of the basilisk on the site for 5 years. Reports of panicked users were later dismissed as being exaggerations or inconsequential, as the theory itself was dismissed as nonsense, including by Yudkowsky himself, even after the post discreditation. It is still used as an example of principles such as Bayesian probability and implicit religion. It is also regarded as a simplified derivative version of Pascal's wager. Right? So I want you to think about that. Roko's basilisk, right? This is this fucking, version of AI, this super AI intelligence that says, and speaking of AI intelligence, Grok and Elon, right? And Grok says that Elon and Trump deserve the death penalty, which is Twitter or X's AI, right? That this Roko's basilisk, think about this super intelligence AI, and I have one more clip. Let's see if we can find this clip. Super. Where is this at? Let's see if I can pull this up. Yes, right here. This is the Jordy Rose. This is the founder, former CTO of D-Wave, presents super intelligence, and it's saying this is alien, right? Quantum computing. Think about it. D-Wave, these dimension D-Wave Delta is like the sleep wave of our brain, right? And think about the Delta variants and all of this shit that was taking place, right? And it's quantum computing, neural networks, all of this. We're tapping into parallel dimensions, alternate realities, right? And we have no idea, what is conscious and what is not. Matter of fact, I'll show you this clip first. Let's see if I can find it here. It's on my channel. And show you this. And this is the opinion of, let's see, let's go down here. This is, wait, right here. No, this is not her. I actually had it as the clip for the beginning of today's video. So, what's her name, guys? Anyways, what is her name? She's the spiritual chick. Her right here. I can't even think of her name right now off the top of my head. My brain's getting fried. It's getting a little too late, but we'll go here. And she talks about how AI, everything comes from consciousness, and that, we're basically playing with fire.
I'm going to just pitch this idea. Some of you may have seen me talk about this before, but we have this problem here that we don't think big enough. We've got all of the ingredients to create this massive, massive thing in Vancouver, and the spark is not being lit. So I implore you, if you're entrepreneurs, people who are thinking about what you want to do, think bigger, because we don't think big enough around here. Okay, so my previous company was D-Wave. I'll just show you a couple things. We built what are still the world's only quantum computers that you can buy. And the company, D-Wave, has been doing this. Thanks. I didn't really have much to do with it. And a lot of interesting things happened to me over the years there. I got sent pajamas. a whole bunch of stuff. There's lots of interesting things that happen when you build something like a quantum computer. But just as an aside, because I thought it was funny, one of the interesting things that's happened from the D-Wave story is there's this gigantic conspiracy that's arisen on the internet that goes like this. So D-Wave builds quantum computers. The way that they work, if you know how this works, is one of the interpretations.
And I want you to remember too, D-Wave, right? These cubes are kept at sub-zero temperatures and underground, and the dimensions are 666 of the cubes. They're black cubes, right? This dimensional wave computers, right? Neural networks, quantum computation, supercomputers, super AI, right? And this goes along with fucking CERN, right? And all of this shit. This all connects to power this, and this is happening on a large scale, right? A large scale. DARPA, DOD, launching of these fucking satellites and Starlinks and graphene and mRNA and everything is creating the World Wide Web, hydrogel, right? Biotechnology, nanotechnology, all of this, nanoparticulates, chemtrails, and these metals within everything to block out the sun, shielding the sun, keeping us from being able to ascend and awaken, right? And also refracting this light back into, the earth and refracting the sunlight away from the earth, shielding the earth. And, this, and we're in this solar maximum at the end of the age, which I've talked about this before, how solar energy has the ability to shift consciousness. It mutates DNA, this radiation does, which allows us to genetically mutate, right? And alter our DNA for the next phase of humanity. Well, they have decided what phase we're going to, and it's an artificial phase, right? The transhumanist phase. This is the Aquarian age and where we're going, right? With 5th generation technology, 5G, all of it. I want you to think about all of this, right? Genetically modified food, everything, right? Designer babies, all of it. CRISPR technology, all of it, right? CERN, and they're doing these rituals with Lucifer, and it's all satanic. It's this black cube worship, and it's this satanic ritual abuse and MK Ultra neuro-linguistic programming, right? And it all seems so alien, right? Alien, and just not, it's anti-human. Anti-human. Put it all together. Put it all together.
Is that you tap into these parallel universes and they do computations. Sounds really weird, but what's happened is this idea has been hijacked to describe something called the Mandela effect, which is this thing where the past changes. So think about something you know to be true from the past, and then imagine you went out on the internet and you can't find it at all. It's not there. It doesn't match with your experience. So these people think that D-Wave is responsible, and CERN. And of course, the quantum key to the abyss.
And maybe they actually are, right? Maybe this is changing our timelines, changing the simulation, altering the simulation. Maybe these super intelligent, alien species, right? Anunnaki, which were technologically advanced, they already conquered us and trapped us in a simulation with these host bodies and our energy to harvest our energy. Remember, we were created as a slave race to harvest gold, right? Gold representing spirit, right? It's ether, it's energy, right? It's soul force, right? And it was a dark-skinned race, meaning a shadow race. Which we are a shadow. We were created in the image of the Elohim, which means a phantom, projection, an illusion. It's a specter. It's an idol. We are a pale reflection, right? We see our 2D shadow on the wall, our 3-dimensional body, which is a shadow of our 4-dimensional self in the heavens. We are, in essence, derived from, space, and it's called soul luminescence, star in a jar. And we talk about how, you know, the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 days of the week, the 7 chakras, and all of this, and how it's essentially this light being refracted through this firmament, acting as if a prism for the collective consciousness that, you know, is projecting, right, our essence, and something has altered us and trapped us here. Maybe, you know, we're in this loop and there's nothing new under the sun because we're already in a simulation. We've already been conquered and we're being harvested, and this is just a giant terrarium.
Factors into it somehow. I'm not exactly sure how. Okay, so that's just D-Wave. I did that for about 15 years. It was a lot of fun. Big science project that we turned into a commercial entity. That was a warm-up for Kindred. So Kindred is much, much, much more ambitious than D-Wave. And what Kindred is trying to do is build real AI. So what you've heard about AI is
Kindred
not what we mean
spirits.
by AI. What we mean by AI is a software system that can do literally anything that a human can do. Literally anything. And obviously, computers are better at things than people in lots
And
of
think
different
about demons, machine learning, right? Mimicking, right? This is the black mirror, that reflection, right? The reflection of the waters above and below the firmament, right? Like, it's all starting to come together and all starting to make sense when we add all the esoteric and occultic elements and the spiritual principles within this, and what's taking place with, you know, our events that are, you know, here, and you add in all of the secret societies and the hidden hands and the technology, and it's like, what the fuck is truly going on? Is it all being revealed now? We're finding out that this giant experience right before this end of this cycle ends again, and we get reset one more time. We lose our history, we lose our memories, we lose our experience like we have every single time.
ways. So now imagine, not only can they do everything that a human can do, but they can do everything that the best human at any task could do better than them. So imagine there was the mental Olympics of the 100-meter dash, and Usain Bolt is the fastest person. Now imagine that's some kind of a mental thing, like writing a novel or writing whatever. Imagine now that the thing is so much faster than Usain Bolt. Like, for example, it's a spaceship, yeah? It's still doing the same thing, but it's doing it so much better because we're limited, because we're people. So what Kindred is trying to do is solve this problem. How do you build machines that are better than people at everything? Now, there's a mental block that we have here when we think about this. Because when you think about that, one of your questions might be, for example, what are the applications of this? So imagine this. Imagine for $10, let's say, I could build a machine, like a little robot that had fingers and eyes and all that. And it could do your job better than you, no matter what it is. And I could sell that to your employer for, say, $15 and make a profit, instead of having to pay you $100,000 a year. Now imagine that was true for every single job. So that's what we're talking about here, is a complete and utter transformative.
And not just thinking about transformative, it's making human beings obsolete, right? And the neural lace increases the broadband of our minds, right? And there's even articles talking about how neural lace allows us to compete with AI. This is us becoming cyborgs or cybernetic organisms, right? This is Skynet. This is us transitioning into this age of transhumanism, right? Where these skin suits and this flesh, right? It no longer is going to be able to cut the cake, and there will probably even be a agenda, you know, robots policing things. AI is already able to write prescriptions and shit like that, in charge of the nuclear stockpile. Imagine if it's making laws and all of this. See where this is going, right? To where we become outdated and we're required to get in tune with the singularity, right, of this artificial intelligence, and to plug into this. And this is truly Roko's basilisk, right? If we don't capitulate and be a part of this, it would essentially end us all. And think about the prophecies of the Antichrist, right? And, I want you to really consider, right, the prophetical aspects, right? Israel's 70 years, the beast of Daniel, right? The abomination that causes desolation, King Cyrus, Nebuchadnezzar, right? Trump, Pence, right? The trumpets, all of this with Trump, the king who was, but was not, and is yet to come, right? And Elon Musk, and how his babysitter said that he would bring in the mark of the beast, but he wasn't the Antichrist. He would just be the guy with them, right? And how many people believe, and that he would take a fatal wound to the head and live, and just all of these things that are happening in the last president shit, and how it's all kind of seemed to go together, and it's all kind of seeming to make sense. And it's like, and we manifest and create these things, and we've been fed these stories to create this reality, this prophetic reality. So we bring it all into fruition. And this is the ultimate culmination in the grand finale of humanity as we know it, as we shift into this age of deception, this mark of the beast, which is us worshiping the image of the beast. And is it the image as far as ourselves, right? Or is it taking these chips or this mark or this transhumanist and worshiping the artificial intelligence?
Change.
Because it gives life to the image, remember. So it's something that was lifeless.
That of the likes of which has never been seen before in the history of humanity, making the Industrial Revolution look like a little tiny blip on the path that humans have taken from when we emerged from the ooze a few billion years ago. We are right on the verge of that transition now. So this guy, Rich Sutton, is one of the most famous people in the academic world of AI. And like many, when asked, when will this happen? He says things like this. 25% chance within 13 years of this thing that I'm talking about. You know, when you think about what you read on the news, you know, CNN, BuzzFeed, whatever, they're all kind of the same nowadays. Think about how unimportant that thing is that you're reading. If this
And
is
why
true.
are they all the same? Because we know that U.S. aid, right, was financing propaganda from Reuters and all this, giving them billions of dollars, like these trans, gender agendas and all these different things to corrupt our minds and mentalities and the way that we perceive reality, and disinformation and misinformation. It's like you look at it all on a scale. It's not the U.S. government, man. It's not our government. It's a world government. It's a global cabal, and it is a fucking secret club, and you're not in it. And everybody that's taken, these pokes, and everybody that's already sold their soul, and everybody, these NPCs, and it's like everybody's being, kind of, the wheels are being greased for them to transition into this seamlessly. And it's like just one day with the 5G, it's like flipping on the switch, and it's like everybody just, it's like turned on. And we already know that, they can read brain activity, manipulate brain activity and emotions, and read our minds and our thoughts. And like I said, they even have drugs like MOIA that, is legal from federal agents to use against illegal aliens and illegal immigrants and against domestic terrorists, right? People that they deem a threat, which, makes them hallucinate and fucks with the neurotransmitters of their brain and allows them to be suggestible for programming, mind control.
Yeah. So what does this have to do with aliens? So Sam Harris, who I quite admire, is a very interesting guy, was reciting this parable at a TED Talk that he was giving, and it goes something like this. So I am, say I'm the President of the United States. So I receive this message from the heavens. So my microwave dish, my SETI dish, finally captures something. And what it says is, in 50 years or 13 years,
voice of God,
we're coming to your planet. You got to be ready. Now, just imagine what would happen if that happened. A super intelligent alien race beamed down a message to all of us Earthlings saying, we're coming July 13th, 2030, and boy, you better be ready because
Agenda
the mothership
2030
is landing right on the front lawn of the White House or wherever you wanted to land on that day. The amount of resources that would be marshaled to try to figure out what to do would they would encompass the whole world. AI is just like that.
And think about Ronald Reagan and how he talks about, you know, when he done the Star Wars and nuclear weapons, you know, in space with the satellites, how he said, you know, that, you know, we would, a new world order, it would take an outside alien threat to bring the entire world together, you know. And all of this disclosure and shit that's taking place, is this the final fucking, you know, Project Bluebeam, right? This holographic projection of something to get us all to bring it all together, you know, the final act.
So when this thing that I'm talking about happens, it's going to be exactly the thing that you're thinking about those super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, you know, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens. And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room in ways that we can't even comprehend. So this, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who said,
"Ooh, Elon Musk, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon." You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Doesn't work out. This is Elon Musk, the guy bringing Neuralace. This is the guy, right? Like, dude, it's perfect, right? The whole shit is just unrolling and unveiling itself, like in this perfect story being orchestrated, and it's like, you can't make this shit up.
says things like this, like, when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he exposed
And we did a video, and I want you to, like, for some background on some of the things that we've talked about tonight, check out, I don't know if it's for donors only, and patrons and shit like that. I may have made them public, but I have my Necronomicon playlist where the H.P. Lovecraft and the old ones and all this, you know. I have my Gateway Experience playlist, my mystery something, my Forbidden Occult, my Ancient Mystery series, like 5 parts of different cultures, my Forbidden Occult series, all of these, the SRA videos, like, these are some of the best work I've done, and it's like to preface all of this, you know, like where we are now.
a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out. So on that pleasant note, we're hiring
And there you have it. These Lovecraftian old ones. You can't even mention their name in the Necronomicon. That's how powerful and evil and ancient these deities are. And you think about how all these religions talk about the gods returning and shit like that. It makes perfect sense, you know? And it's beyond scary, actually. It's wild. I am going to wrap this one up. I want to say thank you so much for you guys for joining me tonight. I know it's been a long one. This is part 1. We are going to do a part 2 to this one. I still have so much to do, so we will do a part 2 to this one. If you guys enjoyed this one, if you're in the chat or you catch us on the flip side, please hit that thumbs up for me. It really, really helps with the algorithm. Make sure to comment on the videos too. That also helps with the algorithm. Subscribe to this channel. Click all the notification bells if you haven't, if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to Best Damn Podcast 2 or John Keane as well. So it's youtube.com Best Damn Podcast Official, youtube.com Best Damn Podcast, youtube.com John Keane 33. This will be on Facebook as well. Follow me, facebook.com Best Damn Podcast, facebook.com John Keane Best Damn Podcast. This will be on BitChute. It's bitchute.com Best Damn Podcast. Follow me, TikTok at the Best Damn Podcast, Instagram Best Damn Podcast, Twitter The Real Best Damn. If you guys appreciate my work, you appreciate free speech, you're anti-censorship, you just love what I do here. I'm demonetized everywhere. Consider donating, supporting to the channel. I am completely viewer powered. Anybody who does donate, if you text a number or email me after you donate, I'll send you the links to the private playlist too, that we have here that you can't get access to. You don't have to join any memberships or anything. I'll just send you them to them. So you can donate paypal.me, the Best Damn Podcast, Cash App, Best Damn Podcast, or Facebook Messenger Pay, facebook.com, John Keane Best Damn Podcast, or join us on Patreon, patreon.com Best Damn Podcast Official, which I'm having some beef with Patreon, so I'd rather you do it the other ways. And you can text 513-393 2396 513-393-2396 or email the real best damn podcast at gmail.com. What else am I missing? If you'd like to book a personal tarot reading or astrology reading, I'm doing a $35 special on the tarots this month, starting at $35. You can also text that number or email and we'll get it set up. You use one of those pay apps. What else? Oh, I'm on Truth Social now as well. Best Damn Podcast. All the links are in the description. They're in the chat. My wonderful moderator extraordinaire, Kimberly F., does an amazing job anytime she's in here of posting the links. I want to say thank you so much to Kimberly F., Rhoda Rose, my random travel videos, used to be Miss Dragon. She's got some cool videos. I've seen her videos up there. Bailey, what's up? Bailey, nice to see you. Elephant Tusks. Shaylee, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Eric Ibu Elliott. Another moderator. Thank you for moderating, bro. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all the moderators, man. If I missed your name or whatever, I do apologize. I'm trying to go back through some of these names here. Make sure I get people. Chrono Crucified BDP. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate all of you. Melopedia Britannica. So I guess I'll leave it at that. So thank you so much for watching my random travel videos. I have Zero Infinity Live. These are all oldies but goodies. These are I swear to you, man, my community is like loyal as fuck. I'm a psycho and they fucking have loved me for years and years despite my psychoness, right? Despite my schizophrenic self, they have always loved me. Even though I'm a fucking wreck, And I appreciate that, man. I love you guys so much for that. And I'm so grateful. I have so much gratitude for each and every one of you. You know, I would really like to like bring back just free chats too. Sammy Lynn, I love you, Sam. Um, I would like to bring back like, you know, some of the chats on Discord. I really need to get the Discord links back in the description, right? And, you know, do some like just some free Q&As and just some cool shit on Discord just because it's fun. Seriously, it's fun to like, it's so hard too when you're like into this kind of shit to find like-minded people. And to find, you know, it's like a lot of us are just really isolated and we're just into weird shit. So we can't relate with a lot of people. We're not into small talk, you know. So like having the community, and that's why it's called the best damn fam, because it's like family, you know, and it's been a family for a long time, for a very long time. I appreciate all the people that's going to check this out on Facebook. Dude, I've been fucking killing it over on Facebook. And so and they're just censoring us like crazy. So yeah, man. Yeah, and we'll do some chats. I'll try to put out some more private content as well. So for everybody that, you know, and everybody who donates and supports, thank you so much. I am so grateful. I have so much gratitude for you guys, even the ones that just, you know, you support by sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Y'all have an awesome, awesome weekend and an awesome week. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And I'll probably do part 2 maybe tomorrow or the next day on this one. This will be the next video I pick back up on. It's just too important. So I love you guys. Peace.